Yesterday it was Richmond taking out Indiana. Now Rhode Island with a chance to beat Syracuse, Billy.
Well, we've talked all day about the guards, and they've been outstanding in Owens and Garrick. But this fella, Kenny Green, right here, has been the difference in the ball game, and the fact that here with a turnaround jumper, he scores again inside. And what Tom Penders did so well is exploit the inability of Coleman and Cycli to handle him.
Brower hitting the front end. Cena checking back in for Rhode Island. That's 11 free throws for Syracuse out of 16 attempts. Rhode Island with 21 points at the free throw line, and that is Green getting it into the hands of Owens.
Brent Cycli not in the ball game right now for Syracuse.
Green almost losing it, now gets it into the hands of Evans, and here's one of the fine guards they'll chase inside. Coming back out was Evans.
Boy, you've got two guards that shoot way on up in the 80s from the foul line. Tough to handle them with their great ball handling ability.
Douglas just put one of them on the line with his third person. Chasing Carlton Owens.
What Jimmy Boeheim is going to try to do now is to substitute offense and defense type players. Cycli to be used on the offensive end. He comes back with Hareed also. It's going to be very difficult for Syracuse to take the ball away from this spread offense now.
Owens has hit all 4 of his free throws. This the front end of the 1-and-1. Takes a bad moment to miss for the first time here in the second half. 92-86, a minute and a half now for Douglas and the Syracuse Orangemen. Into Cycli, backing his way in, using the turnaround, not there. And it's Rhode Island with the ball and knocked out of bounds by Syracuse. It'll go over to the Rams. That was Herman Hareed who checked into the game.
He's going to come out now. He's just in there for defense. They're going to take Cycli out. They don't want Cycli to pick up his 5th foul. You're going to use him on the offensive end. Keep Hareed in there for defense.
Rhode Island will want Owens or Garrick to get back at that free throw line. Green will inbound the ball. Both guards on the floor. They get it over to Evans, and quickly Rowe fouls him. They'll put the forward on the line and not one of the guards.
Evans a 74% free throw shooter. As a team, Brent, they're shooting 74%, so it's pretty hard to pick out somebody who can't deliver from that free throw line.
The winner of this game goes to the East Regional at East Rutherford, New Jersey. They'll take on the winner of the Duke-SMU game. And so for those of you who have just joined us, still a lot of action coming your way. How about from Salt Lake? Florida against Michigan. Grant against Maxwell. Memphis State will be taking on Purdue. Can Gene Cady go all the way? Then we'll come back here to see Mike Krzyzewski and Duke battle against SMU. And a reminder again for those of you tomorrow, be with us at noon. Georgetown and John Thompson go at it against Temple and John Chaney. Georgetown feeling that they can shut down Mark Macon with that aggressive defense. Plan to send 2 and 3 different defenders at him tomorrow. It'll be something to watch from Hartford.
And Brent, Syracuse has to think the rest of the way 3-point shots.
Evans came through for Coach Tom Penders. Still as calm and cool as a cucumber over there, believing all the world that he should beat Syracuse. That's what he said after the Missouri game. I didn't think this was an upset.
Look at that perimeter defense, not giving him any chance for a 3. Douglas
off the penetration, got it down, claiming he was fouled, and the timeout is what he wanted in that situation. He wasn't complaining. He wanted a timeout. He's got it now. It's 1:08. Time working against Syracuse. We'll be right back. Great palaces for college basketball. Chapel Hill, North Carolina, the Dean Smith Center here, with Rhode Island closing in on an upset. It's been that kind of a season. One unpredictable score after another. Both coaches with 2 timeouts remaining. And Syracuse would get the ball out of bounds in case of a jump ball situation.
Well, there's a man that has been sitting on the far end of the Syracuse bench that I think that his face explains the situation right now, the crisis for the Orangemen.
With a minute 8 to play, it's 94-88, and Garrick is fouled by Thompson. He'll come on up here and shoot as Stephen Thompson joins Derek Coleman on the sideline as he too fouls out.
And Brent, what you've got, and we talk about it so often in ball games of this magnitude, are teams that shoot well from the free throw line. You come down the last 2-3 minutes of the ball game and you put 80-85% free throw shooters on the line, you've got a problem.
Well, Garrick has certainly been the player of the game for Rhode Island here this afternoon against Syracuse. He has scored 27 points.
That goes with the 29 he had against Missouri.
Those of you who did just join us from the West Coast probably didn't get in on an earlier story. It's a marvelous story. Tom Garrick's father here this afternoon. He has been blind since the Second World War when he attempted to cover a landmine. He was sent to a hospital and he met a nurse who took such excellent care of him that he married her. Became the father of 8 children. That's one of the sons right there holding up number 1, and now I want Papa to raise that wave. He knows he's on television, and there they are. What a great story this has been here this afternoon. That's John Garrick, the brother. Stacy, the sister of Tom on the other side, holding her child. They are his eyes here this afternoon, if you will, and what a story they've had to tell about their brother. Tom Garrick at the line. 28 points for the afternoon here against Syracuse. He has been a cool hand Luke.
Interesting story. Here's a young guy that from the area wanted to go to Providence in the Big East, and they didn't see fit to give him the scholarship. He's doing the job here today.
Quickly, Syracuse must come down, getting near that 3-point time. There's the man Rhode Island tracking his row. Evans going right after him. They don't give him any daylight out there.
Great perimeter defense.
All over Sherman Douglas now. They know it's 3-time. Douglas running it down. He's got it. Takes it from the corner. Not there.
They've got to come back outside.
Duncan firing one up, and he hits it to keep him alive at the 41-second mark. He fires in a 3. Sherman Douglas has played courageously in the 2 games down here at Chapel Hill. He's been under the weather, concerned about perhaps failing the NCAA drug test, so he did not attempt to take any strong medicine down here.
Brent, isn't that their 5th time out, so they won't be able to stop the clock again. They have 1 more left. And 1 more left, so they've got to be thinking 3-point shot, and they've got to probably foul early. Because these 2 ball handlers, you can't take it away from them.
Now, Coach Tom Penders has been at Rhode Island only 2 years. He took this program over just 12 days before the season was to begin. And in 1 year, he turned it over.
Right, Brendan Malone went down and joined Rick Pitino with the New York Knicks. One of the things that impresses me, not only about Tom Penders, but any coach, Brent, when you look at a program before they got there, and then see that everyone that he's been to, he's turned around on a positive note.
We can remind everyone, still ahead of us, we've got that great Florida-Michigan game coming your way from Salt Lake. Florida shorthanded the other night in beating St. John's, but they welcome back their point guard, Ronnie Montgomery. But the duel you want to watch in that game, and Dick Stockton and Billy Cunningham set the scene for you at our halftime. You're going to watch Gary Grant of Michigan go up against Vernon Maxwell of Florida.
2 of the best guards in the country. Michigan went to sleep the other night in their ball game. Grant did not have a good game. But you know, Brent, when you look back over his, this will be his 4th year in the NCAA tournament. He has not played well in the NCAA tournament. He and Glenn Rice the other night just couldn't get it going. Boise State gave them all they could handle.
Now, Penders wants to have the ball wind up in the hands of Garrick or Owens if they can in this situation. They know that Syracuse will be fouling, and they want one of the slick shooting guards to move to the free throw line. Green will inbound it. Owens was covered. There's Evans, and he quickly gets it up to Owens as the clock ticks down. Can't believe they're not getting him on the line quickly. Garrick gives it up, and here's Evans again, and it's land catch, and now they almost lose the ball on the far side. Garrick gives it to Green. Douglas. Low for the 3. He's got it. Syracuse won't quit. 13 seconds left on that clock. And they've got a chance if they can steal it and fire in a 3. It's 97-94. We'll be back in a moment.
It's a beautiful morning.
I'm Brent Musburger with Billy Becker. Billy, what's so impressive about Rhode Island's 27-6 record?
Well, a couple of things. Number one, 3 of their losses come to the number 1 team in the nation, which is Temple, and they played excellent games in 2 out of those 3 against them. The other thing that's amazing, there you see the decided 3 points or less in those 5 games. But the other thing, they are 21-4 on the road, which is an incredible statistic.
Derek Coleman watching from the sideline these final hectic moments as he is fouled out. Now they must get the ball inbounds. There's 3 men who handle it, and Garrick is fouled. On the pass from Green, 1 second ticks off that clock, and here comes an 80% free throw shooter, and Penders saying, that's the man I want at the line. Let's bring it to him.
Well, Brent, the last sequence in which Rhode Island got the ball up the court and just kept it moving so that they weren't even in a potential to be fouled. There you see a little prayer coming up. And the father who really sees this stuff. You know
he does.
Yes, sir.
Does not miss a moment.
I was talking about that last sequence against the press. Just so well contained the way they kept that ball moving.
Misses. Cena dives after it. Syracuse with a chance here. 8 seconds to go. They've got to hurry now and get the three-pointer fired up. Duncan loses the handle. Comes up with the shot. Not there. Rhode Island eliminates Syracuse. Shooter missing at that time. Rowe knocking the ball from Cena, saves it in the corner. And in the hectic final closing seconds, it appeared for a time as though Syracuse might get this game into overtime. It was Earl Duncan rising with the three, but that's not the kind of year it has been. It has been the year for the Richmonds, and now the Rhode Islands, as Coach Tommy Penders watches the three miss and knows he has advanced to the regional final. And meanwhile, upstairs, in the story of the year in college basketball, Tom Garrick Sr. Now we go to New York and Jim Nance. Jim Nance and James Brown, take it away.
All right, thank you very much, Brent. So the first team to advance to the Sweet 16 is an 11th seed, the Rhode Island Rams. And the Chevy MVPs for Rhode Island, Tom the Chief Garrick, he had 29 in the upset over Missouri, 28 today in the upset over Syracuse. Ronnie Cycli for Syracuse, the Chevy MVP. East Regionals at the Meadowlands on Thursday night. The Rams will go against the winner of the game coming up, SMU against Duke. So Rhode Island advances to the round of 16. Coming up, most of you will be seeing Florida, Michigan, plus other action. We'll continue on the road to the Final Four here on CBS after this message and a word from your local stations.
Finish to the Syracuse-Rhode Island game. Rhode Island pulls it out by 3 points over top of Syracuse, 97-94. And don't forget, coming up in just a few moments, we'll be sending you out to Salt Lake City for the start of that Michigan-Florida game. And excellent that ought to be, while others will go to South Bend, Indiana for the SMU-Duke game. And later on, we'll have Memphis State against Purdue. And we'll have more on our post-game show on the road to the Final Four right after this.
Welcome to the Huntsman Center in Salt Lake City, Utah for NCAA West Region second-round action. The Michigan Wolverines scoring there with Glenn Rice against the Florida Gators, and Michigan has run out to a 16-7 early lead with 14:25 remaining in the first half. This is Dick Stockton along with Bill Cunningham. The first meeting of the tournament between Big Ten and SEC teams. And Florida beating St. John's in their opening round win, and Michigan survivors over Boise State. Battling here in round two. The rebound there by Lloyd Vaught. Florida is only 3 for 13 shooting thus far, and it's been an inside battle, Bill.
Inside, and Michigan is dominated in every phase of the game. Florida only one shot and getting it inside, and we see right there Vaught with the offensive board.
This is where Michigan is strong, and this is where Norm Sloan said that the big people of Florida would have to come to play. There is Sloan, the 61-year-old head coach. He's got Dwayne Shinsis at center, Livingston Chapman, and Dwayne Davis has come in off the bench for the Florida.
Dick, what a great start by Bill Frieder's team there in Salt Lake City. Right now, we're going to take it to South Bend, where the top seed in the Midwest, Purdue, is struggling against Memphis State. This is midway through the first half. The Tigers leading Purdue by the score of 19-18. Again, about 8 minutes left in the first half there in South Bend. Let's join Bert Lundquist and Tommy Heinsohn with the call.
We welcome those of you who have been watching the Florida-Michigan game, where Michigan has a 20-point first half lead. Ours is a little tighter here. in South Bend, Indiana. 19-19, Memphis State and Purdue. Vern Lundquist along with Tommy Knightson as Brent Munt is fouled by Steve Scheffler.
Well, so far in this game, Memphis State has really been able to use their quickness, particularly on the press, and force Purdue into their half-court game. Purdue normally feels very confident that they can score in that half-court game, but they have been missing what normally for them would be automatic two-point shots.
7:24 to go in the first half. The largest lead in the game has been 4. That enjoyed by Memphis State twice. Purdue just came back to tie it up on a free throw. We're at 19-19. MSU about to inbound as you look at senior Troy Lewis. MSU hitting 45%, Purdue only 29%. They've been very frigid from the field in the first half of the first half.
Purdue's been able to solve that zone press pretty effectively so far, but they have not been able to score layups off it. And I think it's because their foot speed isn't as good as Memphis State's is.
Brett Munt. And that puts Memphis State back on top by 2.
Nobody is able to stop him getting where he wants to get.
McCants wants the ball for Purdue. That's the way it's gone most of the day. And Scheffler is fouled by Ballard, who becomes the first player in the game to pick up his 3rd foul.
Well, he's very active underneath there, but and a shot block. All I had to do is give him a fake. I think that's how he lost his hair.
Somebody from Denny Crum's Louisville team, huh? Ballard is one of those who came on, was not expected to be a key contributor this year, but Memphis State lost Marvin Alexander and Sylvester Gray, 2 starters, back in December because they had been dealing with an agent, and Ballard suddenly was inserted into the starting lineup. He and Dwayne Bailey. Now Scheffler gets the first of 2. This free throw to tie for the sophomore from Ada, Michigan.
He's very important in that scheme of things because that allows them to get McCants out of the game or give him some versatility to play McCants and Scheffler together.
21-all, 6:40 to go, first half. Along the baseline, Dwight Boyd back to the freshman guard, John McLaughlin, who has back in the guard position now. They're going to work Munt again. He quickly kicks it back outside to Rodney Douglas. Great pick from Brent Munt. And the shot is good. Boy, he leaned his body into that pick.
That's called a hard pick. And they didn't switch out quick enough to get to Douglas, who was a lefty, and didn't get to his shooting hand.
6:10 to go, first half. Underneath the McCants, they try and work it. Finally get one.
And they're shooting a second man right.
38, Memphis State 33. CBS Sports coverage of NCAA Basketball Championship will continue after this message and a word from your local station.
The NCAA Basketball Championship is sponsored by McDonald's. It's a good time for the great taste of McDonald's. The Century 21 System, the largest real estate sales organization in America. And by Pontiac Grand Am, a true driver's coupe built with a feel for the road.
Final 4 with a guy named Joe Barry Carroll. All right, coming up in just a few moments, we'll be going to Loyola Marymount in North Carolina. This should be some game out in Salt Lake City. For a report on that contest, let's check in live right now with Dick Stockton and Billy Cunningham.
West Regional second round game.
All right, Jim, thank you very much. And this is the team that everyone is waiting to see, Loyola Marymount. Not only do they have the longest college winning streak, 25 games right now, they are the highest scoring team in the nation, averaging over 110 points a game. They're a tremendously exciting team, but they face their stiffest challenge by far of the season. And for Loyola, it all starts in the city of Los Angeles. The Forum in Los Angeles has long been the home of fast break basketball, as the Lakers have sped their way to 4 NBA championships this decade. Their practice site is only a few miles away at Loyola Marymount University, where Paul Westhead, the former Laker coach who was fired 7 years ago for an unimaginative offense, now has turned college basketball on its ear with a run-and-gun style that produced 119 points in their opening round win over over Wyoming. Billy Cunningham, is this team for real, and what does North Carolina have in store for them?
Well, they are for real. They will run and gun. They'll shoot the ball at any time, any place on the court. The thing that you have to be concerned with is they pick up full court defensively. They are intense.
All right, North Carolina pretty strong right now. Let's go back to Jim Nantz in New York.
All right, Dick Stockton. By the way, that score in Chapel Hill still the same when we last saw it, 81-68. 4.5 minutes to go and a timeout in that contest with the Blue Devils up by 13 in Chapel Hill. We'll get to the conclusion of that game as we continue along the road to the Final Four here on CBS in just a moment.
You hear the thunder, the call of the rock.
Whether it's the roar of an available...
Back on the wraparound foul. He'll shoot a pair of free throws for Coach K.
Still calling out the defensive signals. He really couldn't figure out what happened to his ball club, Brent, when they went down. As I said, they lost 3 in a row at the end of the ACC. They were battling for the championship. Actually, it could have been a 4-way tie for the ACC championship this year. North Carolina winning the regular season, but then Duke played very well in the tournament to beat Carolina in the finals for the 3rd time this year. Very smart, disciplined ball club.
.94-77. Duke will advance. Rhode Island is next for Krzyzewski and the Blue Devils. All right, with the Blue Devils going now to the East Regional, where they will play Rhode Island next Thursday night. Let's send you up to New York, and here's Jim Nantz and James Brown. Jim?
And to embellish that point on the East Regional coming up for Duke, back at the Meadowlands, last time Duke was at that site, 1986, the Blue Devils advanced on to the Final Four. All right, the Chevy MVPs from this game, Carlton McKinney for SMU and Kevin Strickland, a career-high 31 for the Blue Devils. Here's the bracket now for the Meadowlands. Rhode Island and Duke will square off on Thursday night. Temple, Georgetown, Georgia Tech, Richmond. That action will be tomorrow from Hartford. Now, coming up, most of you will be seeing Loyola Marymount against North Carolina out in Salt Lake City.
Came into March more like a lion than the namesake Loyola Marymount. The nation's highest scoring team outdid themselves in the opening round of this tournament, not only upsetting Wyoming, but the California crew combined with the Cowboys for a tournament record 234 points. In the first half, they scored just 2 less than North Texas State managed the entire game against North Carolina. Now Paul Westhead's Wonders went up against North Carolina, the frenzied firepower of the Lions, against the tradition-rich Tar Heels. Dean Smith's team setting a tourney record with its 14th consecutive appearance in this tournament. Paul Westhead playing on the same court in Salt Lake City where he had been fired by the Lakers 7 years ago, but all that wiped out by a 25-game winning streak. And wiped out early by North Carolina's hot hand, Jeff Lebo with the three-pointer. Tar Heels score the first 7 points of the game. And then take it to the back door. Rick Fox with the jam. Carolina leads 13-7. Dean Smith seems to know how to handle these Lions, who actually unraveled themselves. They got 2 and 3 chances early, shot just 18% in the first half. J.R. Reed takes command of the boards, and Paul Westhead took a seat. His team never got its running, gunning style going. They played the Tar Heels game, and the Tar Heels played their game, too. J.R. Reed with the power move, jams it home. Now with bench players in down the stretch, even when it went wrong, it went right. And this, the record-breaking 123rd point, the most ever scored in an NCAA tournament game. And for once, Paul Westhead was on the losing end of a century mark as his team's 25-game winning streak ends, and Carolina makes it to the Sweet 16 for the 8th straight year. They are 24-5. Earlier at Huntsman Center, Bill Frieders, who has had his problems in the second round, hasn't made it past that in the last 4 years, taking on Florida, and Glenn Rice getting it down low from Gary Grant and putting it home. Michigan on the run, on the drive, and rolling it home as Rice puts it in again. Len Vaught had the first basket. He had 20. Vernon Maxwell trying to keep the Gators close. The top scorer in the SEC had 23 in the game, but Michigan was up by 19 at the half, then poured it on again. Terry Mills with the short jumper. He had 16. Grant comes down, keeps it himself, and flies it in. Grant had 11 assists, most ever by a Michigan player in the NCAA tournament. He also added 19 points as they added insult to injury, especially Rice, who shot for 39 points, including that three-pointer. Michigan rolls to a 108-85 victory over a sullen Norm Sloan. His team lost 5 of the last 10, and they bow out in the second round. For Glenn Rice, it was simply a day when he felt he couldn't miss.
Yeah, I felt it today. You know, I felt that I didn't think nobody could check me tonight. You know, I had that in my mind since I hit the first shot. You know, I felt that, hey, I'm hot.
Glenn was sensational, and you got to give our players credit for continually getting the ball, Glenn, when he was when he was on a roll. But we've been on selfish all year, and they play their roles. We did not take a bad shot in the tournament. I don't think anybody can say anything like that. We took all good shots for 2 straight games.
They're going to need more good shots on Friday in Seattle when they take on Carolina. That'll be a great matchup when Frieder finally gets a monkey off his back.
We've had North Carolina score over 100. In fact, they set a tournament record. You got Michigan topping the mark. You've got Duke getting 94, Rhode Island 97. Gone are the days of 45, 42. I mean, you got any reason for this?
They always say defense will win this tournament. It seems like now people are turning defense into the offense. You look at Oklahoma, too, which we're going to see coming up in a minute, though. But it's Loyola played its own game. I think eventually it's going to be the defense that'll win, but early on, they're rolling up some big numbers.
I think you've also got to take into account 45 seconds, the 45-second shot for the entire game, and also that three-point rule, because you got teams, as we're going to see, like Oklahoma, who will live and so far not die by it. But that's right. Still to come on Sports Saturday, the Midwest and the Southeast from South Bend. Purdue is reaching the boiling point, while from the Omni in Atlanta, Auburn was able to subdue the nation's leading scorer, but could they clamp down a team that nightly tops the century mark? Those highlights and much more coming your way, so please stick around. Welcome back to the show, and our next stop in this tour of the NCAA tournament is Atlanta. First up, Oklahoma and Auburn. Now, a couple of nights ago, Sonny Smith, the head coach at Auburn, said he would let Hersey Hawkins do his thing. Hawkins did. He hit for 44, but Auburn shut down the rest of the Bradley Braves, and they advanced. Oklahoma, though, offers a different problem, a completely loaded team. The Tigers would have to clamp down on everyone. That is 1 through 5. They don't really do it. Harvey Grant gets the tip in. It goes, and the Sooners off and running. Now, Auburn having all sorts of problems because their main man, Chris Morris, who had 36 in the win over Bradley Flat, loses the ball. He was held scoreless in the first half. Other guys had to pick up the slack. Guys like Derek Dennison, who gets the steal, misses the layup, yes, but there at least someone was following. Johnny Lynn, this is just a 2-point ball game midway through the first half, but then Oklahoma starts to get it going. Stacey King, the turnaround jumper, it goes from a two-point ball game to a 14-point Oklahoma lead at the half. And then Dave Seeger, 5 for 5, 3-point range. The Sooners are opening it up, and it's Stacey King who puts the icing on the cake. He gets it, it goes. 37 points for King. Oklahoma goes 3 points over their season average, 107-87. The Sooners now 32-3, top in the century mark for the 19th time this season.
Well, I thought he was awesome against Bradley. And I think probably if you talk to Sonny, I think he feels that they probably played better against Bradley. But I think we took them out of their game a little bit more with our pressure and everything. I thought Morris had I watched that game for 35 minutes, and I thought it was an awesome display.
Well, next up for the awesome Sooners will be either BYU or Louisville, going at it right now early in the first half at the Omni, and the Cougars leading the Cardinals 14-8. Gary?
Purdue was picked by money to win the national title going into the tournament, but they have had a tendency to pull apart in postseason play. Awarded the top seed in the Midwest Regional, Gene Keaty's club conquered Fairleigh Dickinson fairly easily, and now faced a Memphis team which they figured to blow away. But Purdue hadn't made it past the second round in the past 5 tournament tries. So Gene Keaty trying to eliminate that jinx that had befallen his team and trying to do it to the Memphis State Tigers, who scored early and took the lead on the Boilermakers. But Purdue has so much firepower that they can send 3 or 4 players coming at you. Mel McCants had a big game in their win over Fairleigh Dickinson. Here, Troy Lewis on the lob inside gets them back in the game. Then in the second half, the Boilermakers explode. Todd Mitchell slams it home, and the lead is 9. They went on a quick run to open in the opening minutes and never looked back. Trouncing the Tigers, Lewis from the outside connected for 22 points. Now on the run again, always looking for the break, driving in, and Mitchell scores. They got it up to a 14-point lead. McCants also got in the action as well as they feed it in low, and the power game in reverse off the glass. He had 22, and Gene Keaty had a second-round win for the first time in 5 years, and they also topped the century mark, and it did feel good. Their 28th win against just 3 losses. Memphis State scores 73 as their season ends at 20-11. In the second game at South Bend, DePaul against Kansas State. Great matchup of the 4th and 5th seeds, and jamming it home is Mitch Richmond, the top player for the Wildcats. His team take a 20-17 lead. DePaul works it outside. Wide open in the corner, Terrace Green buries the 3. Blue Demons take a 4-point lead. But with a minute to go, the story of the game. Outside, William Scott canning a 3-pointer. Kansas State goes up by 1. Second half, still a tight game, but Scott was unstoppable. That one finally rolled home. He had 7 of 8 from 3-point range. 21 of his 22 points came from the 3-point mark. DePaul tried to stay in it with a feed inside. Rod Strickland finds Kevin Holland, but most of the offense was provided by Strickland. The only Demon in double figures had 19. His teammates couldn't pick up the slack. K-State hit the boards, and on Richmond's missed, Ron Meyer tips it home, and K-State led for good. They won it 66-58, doing it with defense as well. That's the lowest point total of the season for DePaul, which makes its quickest exit in 3 years as K-State moves up.
On the corner belt.
Georgetown really rushing their offensive shots.
Now let's see what Temple can come up. They'll want to slow down, take a few seconds. No, they do not. Frieswick comes up firing and hits the home run.
Mike Frieswick recognized the 1-3-1 zone from Georgetown right away. John's calling the timeout.
An early run by Temple against Georgetown.
Well, they're trying to force the tempo a little bit. And as I said, they've been a little impatient offensively. Rivas has
will
got
give it up
great
as
hands.
quickly as he can, and he did, into Frieswick's hands. Ramon Rivas, he went to high school at the same high school in Puerto Rico where the late, great Roberto Clemente learned how to play baseball down there. Highsmith fouling Tim Perry. Speaking of high schools, Tim Perry, number 33, is Highsmith. We'll go over. Tim Perry is from the same high school, New Jersey, as another superstar, a fellow by the name of Bruce Springsteen. Perry said, I hope he's a fan of mine. I like his music.
He was coached by a guy named Jack Cunard, who had Lenny Elmore at Power Memorial, one of the outstanding technicians in high school ball for many years.
Thompson continues to operate on the bench now, sending in Sam Jefferson, a 6'9" sophomore out of the Washington area.
Gives him a little better matchup size-wise. Going back and playing a little zone now. Back into that 1-3-1, Jaron Jackson running the line.
Jefferson jumped out on Macon, putting that size out on the young guard. They release him through, and as Evans comes down, he is fouled by Bryant.
John Thompson wanting a little push-off there on Evans.
It's 13-4. Thompson trails Temple.
Brent, there aren't many guards in the country that can control the ball like Evans because he also can score. So you have to really play him for the shot as well as his ability to get the ball inside.
Gets the ball into the freshman sensation's hand. Macon sends it back to Evans. Macon is very patient here early. He plays way beyond his years. They look inside. Now they get it into Perry. Against the double team, and that's the man Cheney feels Georgetown cannot stop, is Tim Perry.
Good job to go inside there against the 1-3-1. Perry's got a lot of shots. Turnaround jumper to half hook.
Here's Tillman. He'll shoot the 3. Jackson moves out on top. They'd like to get Jackson involved in the offense, and he fires the 3.
Nobody there at all, and why there was no one there is great penetration, which really sealed 2 men on the defense.
Now watch underneath and see what they do defensively against Perry and Rivas.
Now they're back to the man-to-man, Brent, so they changed. John's been changing every other time. Yes, sir.
It goes over to Georgetown.
Bryant and Tillman going to give Macon all he can handle. They're great athletes, very quick and strong.
That's 2 turnovers created by Thompson's defense. You heard him at the top of the broadcast say we'd like a more hectic pace.
Brent, and looking at the defense, for what people ought to watch about Temple is whenever a man's in the zone area, a guy guards him. If there's nobody there, he kind of shifts over and finds somebody to pick up. And that's what the matchup's all about. Zone with man-to-man principles.
Jackson again. Not this time in Rivas with that wide body.
Great block out. He's beyond a wide body.
Frieswick
Good screen by Evans.
Comes up firing under pressure and hits the three-pointer. That's his second three-pointer and 8 points for Breezewick.
Everybody on this team understands their role. They really extend the defense out with that three-point ability, which opens up Perry later on.
Tillman not there, and Perry rebounding for the Owls. Now, what must concern Cheney and the Owls is that this is a little too easy. 18-7 at the 12:30 mark. We've seen teams get to early leads and then relax. You can't do that if you're playing the Hoyas. Macon's air ball. Rivas is there.
Fred, what concerns John is the inside attack that Temple has and the fact that he has none.
Town Hoyas, the Atlantic 10 and the Big East. Already the Atlantic 10 1-0. As Rhode Island, coached by Tom Penders, did a splendid job yesterday in eliminating Syracuse. Now Temple, which has never proceeded past that second round for Coach Cheney, would like to do it to the Hoyas.
And of course, John got a break on that because there's no more time left on the shot clock. They'll be able to go for the last shot. Is he going to go man-to-man? Yeah. How about this? No, he's just pulled out. He's pulled out his defense a little bit.
Smith very dangerous on the move if he starts to penetrate. He got it up high on the glass, and that'll come. It'll be the end of the first half. Temple has led it all the way, and it's the Owls 30, the Hoyas 26. And our coverage of this NCAA basketball championship will continue after this message and a word from your local station.
Championship is sponsored by U.S. Armed Forces. It's a great place to start. Wang Laboratories. Wang makes it work. And by Pontiac Grand Am, a true driver's coupe, built with a feel for the road.
It's halftime in Hartford, and Temple on top of Georgetown by the count of 30-26. Welcome back live to our studios in New York. Jim Nance along with James Brown. And James, I think Georgetown must like its position here at the half, down to 1 point by 13 points. The Hoyas have fought back to pull within 4, and they have forced 10 Temple turnovers. The Owls only average about 9 a game.
John Thompson's got to be pleased with where his team is sitting right now, only 4 points down. Temple can ill afford to have Mark Macon or Tim Perry in foul trouble. John Thompson's got a deeper bench. But, Jimmy, I tell you, coming up later on here on CBS, as a matter of fact, at 2 o'clock, most of you will also be seeing what should be an excellent matchup between the SEC champion Kentucky Wildcats and a program that's on the rise again, the University of Maryland. That game will be coming to you from Cincinnati, Ohio. A sigh of relief. Here was a man who had both the coaching know-how as well as the integrity to heal a school shattered by the fallout from the Len Bias drug tragedy.
My priority was to regroup my kids, the kids that I inherited in this new program, and just try to bring sanity among them, because those kids were lost. They didn't know what was happening. One day they thought they were going to have the former coach would be retained, and then they found it was a new coach. So they were in disarray. So I had to bring sanity and organization within the ranks of the kids. And then after that, we tried to be competitive for that year.
Maryland did not win a single ACC game in Wade's first season, but winning the hearts and minds of high school stars has been tougher.
I had to sell Bob Wade. That's what I did. I just talked about what I'd done on a prep level, kids that I had produced, and what they were doing with their lives now. And I had to sell the University of Maryland that I had come into contact with.
Bob Wade soon began to win these tough recruiting battles. It helped immensely that he had coached for 11 years at Dunbar High School in Baltimore. There he turned teams into national powers and developed such stars as Tyrone Bogues and Reggie Williams. Wade's prize Terrapin recruits are freshman forward Cedric Lewis, who joins his brother Derek on the team, and of more significance perhaps, center Brian Williams, the first player out of California to matriculate at Maryland. Now that he's on the collegiate side of the recruiting process, Coach Wade is learning to adjust to the pressures and demands of big-time college basketball. It may appear to be hard work to some, but it's a labor of love to him.
The best part is getting on the floor and just coaching, and it's being away from the media and the fanfare. That's the fun part to me. You're away from the critics. The critics will hit you later on when you come off the floor. But it's really like being in your own little sanctuary, you know, with your kids on the floor coaching. And to me, that's the fun part about it.
Chancellor John Slaughter made a bold move when he hired Bob Wade out of the high school ranks and also the first black coach in the ACC. There were a lot of alumni who wanted to withdraw athletic support from Maryland University and even wanted to petition the governor to overturn that decision. Well, it's been proven in time that Bob Wade is absolutely the right man for the job. Jim?
He really has done an outstanding job. You know, last year I got a chance to spend a little time with him when Maryland was mired in an 0-14 ACC season. He's come back and put his team in the tournament. Just a remarkable job by Bob Wade. You'll see Kentucky and Maryland as part of our coverage around 2 o'clock. Many of you will see that game. Later in the day, let's tell you that you'll see either Seton Hall, Arizona, Villanova, Illinois, or Murray State, Kansas in this big triple-header day, second-round action in the tournament. Right now, we're getting set for the second half from Hartford. We'll take you back there after this message and a word from your local station.
Temple moves along, eliminating Georgetown in a mighty hug between Chaney and Thompson. Georgetown suffers its worst loss ever in the NCAA Tournament. Beaten by 21. An impressive performance by John Chaney and the Temple Owls. Jim Nance will be coming your way next when we continue on CBS in just a moment.
Well, Temple, the #1 team in the country, field goal percentage. Defense turns in another great effort today. 30% they held Georgetown from the floor in that victory today. The Chevy MVPs for the Hoyas, Ronnie Highsmith, and for Temple, Mike Vrieswick. With Vrieswick scoring 21 points, Mark Macon and Tim Perry on that team. Perry, by the way, from Freehold, New Jersey, Bruce Springsteen's hometown. Perhaps this Temple team was born to run right to the Final Four. In the East, let's take a look now. The 3 teams that have qualified for the Meadowlands. Temple will take on the winner of the Georgia Tech-Richmond game, which is coming up later. And, of course, Rhode Island and Duke advanced yesterday. And when we'll reset the day, triple-header Sunday for you when we come back right after this.
And all the teams are trying to make the long trek to Kansas City, Jimmy, to make it there for the Final Four. And some of the teams that will be trying to do that coming up next here on CBS. Most of you will see Maryland University taking on SEC champion Kentucky, while others will see Vanderbilt against Pittsburgh, Richmond against Georgia Tech. And the next game, the next slate later on today, will show Seton Hall of the Big East, the surprise team, against top-seeded Arizona, Villanova against Illinois, and Murray State, the surprising Murray State Racers, against Kansas. And later today on the West Coast, the action there will show Iowa against UNLV. And John Chaney, the victorious coach from Temple University, we'll get to hear his thoughts on how they knocked off the Georgetown Hoyas. That and more coming your way after this.
Going to Kansas City, here I come.
Reminder, coming up, most of you will be seeing Maryland against Kentucky, while others will watch Vanderbilt, Pittsburgh, or the Richmond, Georgia Tech game back in Hartford. The first winner today to advance to the round of the Sweet 16, Temple over Georgetown. This was a win for John Chaney's team, like Purdue yesterday, getting to the regionals, getting past the big obstacle. Brent Musburger talked to John Chaney.
Well, John Chaney and the Temple Owls advance, and John, your observation, struggled a little bit in the first half and then got it together.
I think we got into foul trouble with some of our key players, and our bench is not that strong. And, you know, the vital organs were in trouble, Tim Perry and Mark, and we had to, like, go out and buy some time, and I thought the kids did a good job there.
You know, most people had billed the East Regional as the most difficult, with #1 in the nation, Temple, plus 5 other teams that advanced to the Final Four during the 80s. Well, at this point, we still have the #1 team in Temple, but only one other team left from the Final Four in the 80s, and that is Duke University. And we will continue here with our coverage of the road to the Final Four after this message and a word from your local station.
game sponsored locally in part by BMW.
All right, Maryland and Kentucky coming up in just a few moments from Cincinnati. And James, with Kentucky only being about 65 miles away from Cincinnati, I would think there'd be a large support there for the Wildcats. How will Maryland hold up? Its composure, a young team not with a lot of tournament experience.
Yeah, Kentucky indeed does have more tournament experience than Maryland. However, Maryland plays in a tough ACC, and there's no more pressure than the ACC tournament. Kentucky has perhaps the strongest backcourt in America with Chapman and Davender, but the one weakness is their inability to keep people off the glass. Eddie Sutton has talked about that all year long. And if Brian Williams and Derek Lewis can do the job on the backboards, ought to be a good game.
All right, that's Kentucky and Maryland coming your way from Cincinnati. We will take you there. Vern Lundquist and Tommy Heinsohn will have the call for CBS as we continue right after this.
From Riverfront Coliseum, the second round Southeast Region encounter between the Maryland Terrapins, who come in with an 18-12 record, and the Wildcats of Kentucky, 26-5. Kentucky in by virtue of winning the SEC tournament, of course, and Maryland got an at-large bid after a surprising season under second-year head coach Bob Wade. The Maryland Terrapins outlasted UCSB, that's University of California, Santa Barbara, in the first round, and Kentucky had a little bit of a tough struggle, but they did get past Southern University. I'm Vern Lundquist along with Tommy Heinsohn, and there is one of the two outstanding backcourt men, Tommy, Rex Chapman. He joins with Ed Davender.
Well, they have an exceptional backcourt combination in those two. Both of them very intelligent in handling the ball, making the play happen, and outstanding athletic ability. I don't feel, however, the game is going to be played with those two guys. I think this game is going to be the story of the big boards. Whoever controls the rebound is going to win this game.
Bob Wade, in his second year as head coach at Maryland. The officiating crew today, Jim Bain from Decatur, Illinois, Larry Lembo from Farmington, New York, and Art McDonald of East Rutherford, New Jersey. And you got a good look at Eddie Sutton now in his third year as the head coach at Kentucky. The toss will be controlled by Eric Manuel of the Kentucky Wildcats. They go from left to right. We'll give you the starting lineups. That's Ed Davender with the ball, number 15. Chapman wears number 3. Davender gets 2. He is joined by Winston Bennett, Eric Manuel, and Rob Locke for the Wildcats. Now Maryland up with Rudy Archer, the point guard. He's joined by Keith Gatlin. Underneath it goes to Brian Williams. This is Massenberg, and he gets 3 to tie. Tony Massenberg, and the fifth starter is Derek Lewis, perhaps the key for Maryland.
Well, Kentucky wants to play conservative basketball. They want to have to defend few possessions, so they're going to move it around. And one of the things that might work against Maryland is very patient offense.
Davender moves it underneath for Locke, who wasn't looking for the pass. First turnover of the game. Ed Davender had a career high of 30 in the first round here against Southern.
Maryland, when they come up, they'll be patient themselves. They've got a very effective 3 men in the paint offense and some exceptional outside shooting to complement that. So you really have to play good defense.
Turnaround jumper. Williams short. And here comes Rex Chapman for the Wildcats. We're tied at 2, opening minute of the game. Manuel got it. That's a three-pointer.
He's a man that's going to be under the gun, in my opinion, today. A guy that has to do a job on Lewis and control the boards.
First meeting since 1959. That was only the 4th three-point shot that Manuel has attempted this year. He's now 3 for 4. Derek Lewis gets it to Brian Williams, the freshman center, who's been a year-long starter. Massenberg with a rebound, struggle, and a foul call. No traveling.
Immediately, Maryland goes to its strength, the inside game. Kentucky is playing man-to-man defense, so Locke will take the biggest player, Williams, and the forwards, Lewis on the outside, guarded by Manuel.
Eric Manuel, one of 4 men who've started at that spot for Eddie Sutton this year. That's been the problem spot. There's Locke off balance, and it'll be Maryland ball. Keith Gatlin will inbound now to Rudy Archer, a junior college transfer from Allegheny Community College, who's been a real spark plug for Bob Wade's team. 166 assists in the regular season.
This man with the ball right now is an exceptional outside shooter.
is a 4-point ball game, and Maryland is going to the free throw line. Let's take it back to Cincinnati. Vern Lundquist and Tommy Heinsohn with the call.
But next year he will be a sophomore, so he won't make those kind of fouls, I think.
Welcome those of you who've been watching the Vanderbilt-Pittsburgh game. We're at Riverfront Coliseum, Southeast Region second round game. Maryland has been sticking right with Kentucky. They fell behind by as many as 9, put together a run, and right now they trail by just 2. 33-31 with 4:12 to go in the first half of play. And defensively, the key story for Kentucky has been a trio of fouls by Rob Locke and LaRon Ellis, and Brian Williams, the freshman center of Maryland, has 12 points. There's Winston Bennett, the high scorer in the ball game, with 12 for Kentucky, who will go to the line again.
But the story, strategy-wise, is whose big guys are going to win this game and hang in there towards the end and overpower the other big guys. The guards are virtually even Stevens, scoring, defense, what have you. It's got to be the big guys that win this game. And that's been pretty much a standoff right now. And Maryland's been picking on the center of Kentucky.
This will be the 15th first half free throw event for Kentucky. And Bennett misses. Live from Riverfront Coliseum, Southeast Region second round game, a sellout crowd. We're only an hour and a half away from Lexington, so most of the folks from the Kentucky area. Bennett with 12. Front court scoring, Maryland 17, Kentucky 23 thus far. Bennett gets 1 out of 2. And the lead is back to 3 at 34-31. Kentucky over Maryland. Gatlin. Back to Hood. And Bennett pulls down the rebound. Maryland has fought back from that 9-point deficit, but they've not been able to take the lead. Chapman dishes underneath to Ellis, who's short, and Williams with a rebound. Foul by Laurent. No, out of bounds. I beg your pardon. It was blocked by the official. So it'll be Kentucky's ball.
You know, Kentucky's offense has got such good movement in it that when you stop playing everybody, trying to stop a Chapman, trying to stop a Bennett, that you can slip it inside, and Ellis really can, I mean, for a freshman, he plays very well on the inside.
Chapman misses again. Rex Chapman. He is 1 for 6. Williams has 14 points, Tommy.
They're going to pick until it really get the two centers of Kentucky in foul trouble.
The lead is 1. Eric Manuel.
And they have to hit those outside shots right now because they're not getting an awful.
LaRon Ellis with perfect timing, but it was a little suspect. Boy, did he get up.
Well, he just dropped from the middle of that 1-3-1 zone and swatted it away. And the man roaming around on the baseline, I'll tell you, he can leap, and he's got great quickness. Now, that's the secret of a good shot blocker. You got to be a little intelligent. You can't go over and try and block the shot before the ball is released from the player's hands.
We welcome those of you who've been watching Vanderbilt at Pitt. That score tied 34-all at halftime. Here in Cincinnati, Ohio, it's a 40-37 Kentucky lead. We're at the Riverfront Coliseum. Maryland has not led in this game. They were tied early at 2 apiece. They trailed by as many as 9 at the 10-minute mark by a count of 24-15. And right now the lead is at 2, 40-38, as the big freshman center, Brian Williams, has led Maryland with 14 points. And the two big men for Kentucky, Locke and Ellis, have 3 fouls each trying to defend him. But Davender gets 2 more.
Boy, what hang time on that one. He waited till those big guys with the red jerseys went up and came down. That's hang time.
Maryland will play for the final shot. Again, they trail by 9 points. For the Maryland Terrapins, 2 men with 3 fouls each. Rudy Archer, the point guard, on the bench. That's for 3, and that's good. And the lead is 1 with 3 seconds to go. That's the end of the
the first half with the score, 42-41. CBS coverage continues after this message and a word from your local station.
CBS Sports coverage of the NCAA Basketball Championship is sponsored by Pontiac Grand Am, a true driver's coupe, built with a feel for the road. AT&T, the right choice. And by Budweiser, proud sponsor of the 1988 U.S. Olympic team. This Bud's for you.
And what they saw early on, though, were the Hoyas' defense keeping them in the game early as Charles Smith goes the distance after the steal, just like John Thompson diagrammed it. However, Tim Perry, not only good on defense, strong on the offensive end as he slams it in strong. Temple takes it by the score of 74-53. And we'll send you back to your games after this.
CBS Sports coverage of the NCAA Basketball Championship will continue after this message and a word from your local station.
Down to the last seconds, Charles Smith was just fouled. He will be going to the free throw line. The Panthers up by 1. And let's take you to Vanderbilt and Pittsburgh in Lincoln.
Welcome to the Devaney Sports Center in Lincoln, Nebraska. We have a thriller down to the wire here. 17 seconds remaining in this Midwest Regional second round game. Pittsburgh leading Vanderbilt 64-63. And when we come back, Charles Smith of Pitt will be on the line to shoot 2 shots.
So Vanderbilt and Pitt coming down to the closing seconds. 17 seconds left. Charles Smith will go to the line. Darrell Porter really brought Pittsburgh back. The Panthers were down by 3. Porter then hit a 3-point bucket and then a 2-point bucket. Somewhat controversial. Some thought it was a 3, but that moved Pitt in front. And Vanderbilt has right now 17 seconds on the clock. However, Charles Smith on the line for the Panthers and Pittsburgh leading by 1. It'll be a 2-shot situation for Charles Smith. Meanwhile, Kentucky and Maryland, 1 minute and 42 seconds left. Kentucky leads it 80-76, a 4-point lead there, and Kentucky has the basketball. Clock is running, 1:35 at Cincinnati. Kentucky up by 4 with the basketball. But let's take you to the finish now in Lincoln, Vanderbilt and Pittsburgh. Let's go to Dick Stockton.
Dick Stockton and Bill Cunningham here at the Devaney Center in Lincoln, Nebraska. Pittsburgh leading by 1, and they'll have a chance for 2 more free throws. Charles Smith will go to the line. There's the timeout story. Vanderbilt still has 1 foul to give, and Pittsburgh has the advantage on the possession arrow. So Charles Smith, who got into foul trouble, has been playing with 16 points to lead the Panthers. He'll be going to the line where he is 4 for 4 this afternoon and 76% for the season. And if Pitt is to come back and overcome that 4-point deficit at 61-57, which they did in the waning stages, they can thank their board work because they have out-rebounded Pitt 40-21, or Pitt has out-rebounded Vandy 40-21 with 19 corralled by Jerome Lane.
Quite an advantage. Now we see what Vanderbilt's done. They've put in 3 guards now. We see Booker in there, Goheen, and Drought. So they might look to just, if Charles Smith makes both free throws, just to push it down the court and look for one of those 3 men to spot up for the 3-point shot.
And even if he misses, they might do the same thing if they get a long rebound.
But they'll have more options, though, at that point. They could look to go inside.
Here's Smith. 1-point lead for Pitt. He has been the big man for the Panthers all year at crunch time. Whenever it got down to the nitty-gritty, Charles Smith always came up with the big plays. Now they're looking for the free throw from him. Wyatt here, and he misses. misses the second. Purdue gets the rebound. Loose ball into the hands of Pitt and a foul with 13 seconds to go. He missed the free throw. Will Purdue seemingly had control. It was knocked away, and now Pitt regains the ball, and they're fouled, and a chance now to maybe ice this game away.
You know who got his hand on the ball that time, and it was Jerome Lane again, knocking the ball loose and allowing Charles Smith to get possession.
Jerome Lane with 19 rebounds, and a timeout called by Vanderbilt, so there'll be free throws. It is the 16th foul, so it is not a shooting situation. Remember, we told you they had one foul to give, but still with 13 seconds to go, Vanderbilt, if they can't get the steal, they're going to have to commit the foul and just keep their fingers crossed that they miss one of them.
And make sure they're going for the basketball and not committing an intentional foul. What they'll do is, as you mentioned, they'll probably put some pressure on the ball coming in, look to overplay, deny the inbounds pass, look for the steal, and if they get it, just take it the length of the court. Of course, what Pittsburgh will do is they'll try to get it in, spread the court, move the basketball, and try to keep it in the good foul shooter's hands.
And, you know, a lot of people always say, who are the people we want to foul? But you can be sure that Paul Evans is making sure that some of the people who don't shoot well at the line, such as Jerome Lane, they won't see the ball on this possession.
That's who they'd like not to have it, but when you're in a heated contest like this and you're moving the ball, it's very possible Jerome Lane might be the only outlet.
Kentucky leading in a close battle with Maryland in the final stages of that Southeast Conference battle. Lane is out there with Smith. Nate Bailey has come in, a sophomore from Weymouth, Massachusetts. He's a rebounding muscle player. Number 4, Bailey makes his first appearance. Darrell Porter will inbound, so it's Porter, Jason Matthews, Smith, Lane, and Sean Miller as Bailey made an appearance and then sat down.
Well, they're just taking Guhin off the basketball, other people denying, trying to force the lob pass, and Guhin is standing back there playing center field.
So if Vanderbilt fouls, that will be a one-on-one situation. 1-and-1 with 13 seconds to go. 65-63 Pittsburgh. And here we go. And they inbounded and a trap and immediate foul. Jason Matthews was double-teamed and sandwiched, and he will go to the line to shoot. He is an outstanding free throw shooter at 83%. And he'll have a chance to give Pitt a 4-point lead.
Outstanding, but as a freshman, he's never been in a position like this.
Well, that goes back to my early question we talked about way before we got underway here about the pressure of freshmen in this kind of setting in the NCAA.
You know, I'm sure that Paul Evans would like to have veterans out here, players that have a year or two of experience, but the way these young people have responded for him, a lot of credit has to go right to Paul Evans, giving that type of confidence to these young players.
Well, Matthews coolly hit the first shot, and there's the anxiety on the Vanderbilt bench. Jason Matthews, a freshman from Los Angeles, will attempt another free throw. Try to give Pitt a 4-point lead. He does, 67-63. And now they're going to bring in Nate Bailey, the sophomore rebounding specialist. Cornette will inbound with 12 seconds to go. They need a basket, and they have to get the ball back somehow. Here is Barry Goheen. It's a three-pointer and a timeout called by Vanderbilt. So the Commodores are still in it. They trail by 1 with 5 seconds to go. And it's not over yet here in Lincoln.
What a shot. Just an excellent play. Great.
Right now.
Gets it, and welcome all of you back to our game at Cincinnati. Vanderbilt trailing Pittsburgh 67-63. Here, Kentucky has broken a 76-all tie. They lead 85-78 with 37 seconds left, and Ed Davender shooting the second of a 1-and-1. Back-to-back three-pointers by Maryland tied it up 76-all. But then Kentucky broke out to a 4-point edge. Their lead now is 8. With 37 seconds to go. Maryland with 1 timeout left, Kentucky with 2. Kentucky still has 3 fouls to give. They've got the possession arrow, and they've got the score. Now, let's go back to Vanderbilt Pitt.
Once again, here's our story with 5 seconds to go. Pittsburgh leading Vanderbilt 67-66. Barry Goheen just hit a three-pointer. Vanderbilt called the timeout. They're going to try and steal or foul, and they've got to do it in a hurry, as you say, Billy, because CM Newton's team needs time at the other end to try to get maybe a three-pointer to pull this one out or tie the game.
Absolutely. They're going to look to deny. And again, we see Scott Stroud is going to play center field. He's going to look to defend any long passes. If they don't get it, you know, they're going to commit that foul immediately.
Miller gets it out to Smith, who's fouled immediately, and it's a 1-and-1. He was going after the ball with 4 seconds to go. So once again, Charles Smith has the opportunity to ice this one, or at least give a three-point game, but with 4 seconds to go, not much time, and Will Perdue is fouled out of the game. This may be the finale for him, and a standing ovation for Will Perdue. He has been the best big man that Vanderbilt has had since the days of Clyde Lee in the mid-60s, when Vanderbilt got to the Mid-East Regional Finals before losing to Michigan. Will Perdue fouls out, having scored 15 points and 5 rebounds.
He had such a great ball game, and I know the one thing he's thinking about now is, oh, I wish I could have gotten that one rebound that Jerome Lane knocked loose and gave them an opportunity to make those 2 last free throws for Pittsburgh.
4 seconds to go. And Smith is on the line. Smith has whisked 1 free throw today,
and that was his last attempt.
It's a 2-point lead. Vanderbilt does not have a timeout left. They use their last one, and they'll have 4 seconds to get it up in a hurry to try to get a three-pointer to tie it and send it in overtime.
Well, you just got to get it into one player, probably Booker, let him push it the length of the court.
Here they come. Goheen. Final seconds. Didn't have control. Basket is good. Goheen ties it up at the buzzer.
Shot a leader, 2 defenders on him, and somehow all net.
17 points for Barry Goheen. So the bomb squad, after Will Perdue had fouled out, came through with a 3-point shot by Goheen. His second 3-pointer of the game will go into overtime.
We welcome those of you who have been watching Vanderbilt and Pittsburgh. They are now going to overtime, tied at 69. Here at Riverfront Coliseum in the Southeast Region second-round game, Kentucky leads by 7. Just to bring you up to date, we have 18 seconds to go. Both teams with 1 timeout left. Maryland is out of fouls to give. Kentucky can still give 3, and the possession arrow favors Kentucky. And Ed Davender will go to the free throw line, shooting 1-and-1. He is 11 of 12 today. With the score 76-70, Maryland hit back-to-back 3-pointers by McCoy and Gatlin, the 2 guards, to tie it at 76 all. But then Bennett got a layup, Chapman hit a jumper, Manuel hit 2 free throws, and Davender has now hit 5. And as a result, despite the frown that's currently on Eddie Sutton's face, his team leads and looks like they're going to Birmingham. 13-14 for Davender today. The lead is 9. Tommy Heinsohn.
Well, the guards gave him a great game, and Winston Bennett gave him a great game, and Locke and Ellis, everybody made a solid contribution for the Wildcats.
Davender in the corner. Trying to get a little too cute. That's okay. You can say that's okay. A 9-point lead and 5 to go. And the Rupp Arena North crowd is going to Birmingham. The Wildcats of Kentucky, 27-5 over a valiant, tenacious Maryland Terrapin team. Now, let's go back to Jim Nance in New York as the Kentucky Wildcats celebrate. They'll be going to Birmingham and playing there next Friday night. Here's Jim.
All All right, so a big second half there by Rex Chapman. About 2 minutes to go. Richmond is up 8 on Georgia Tech. An upset there. We'll get you back to Lincoln and the overtime, Vanderbilt and Pittsburgh, when we continue on the road to the Final Four right after this.
Newton's Vanderbilt Commodores, and the leading scorer for Pitt is Charles Smith with 21. Goheen in the lane, the basket counts and a foul. And now Dick Paparo indicates that it is an offense foul. It was the basket does not count. And the foul was before the basket.
Matthews fighting through the screen. He got hit right there before he planted those 2 feet to go up for the shot. Good call by the official.
Foul was on Matthews, and here is Barry Goheen, a junior from Calvert City, Kentucky. Hits the first free throw. His three-pointer at the buzzer. He was double-teamed and off balance, hit the three-pointer to send this game into overtime. He has hit 5 of 6 from the free throw line. Now 6 of 7, and Vanderbilt leads by 3.
Now, right now, Pittsburgh has to do the same thing they did the last time down the court. Good patience, make sure they get the shot. Hey, if they can bring it inside to Charles Smith or to Lane, why not? There's still plenty of time to play basketball.
Sean Miller has not shot much today, but mostly the playmaker. Gore, who can play both forward and guard, hanging in the perimeter, hit a three-pointer just a moment ago, goes for another three, not this time, and it's into the hands of Eric Reed of Vanderbilt, and the Commodores, with a three-point lead and a minute to go, will take their time.
Absolutely. They'll try to milk the clock. I would expect C.M. Newton wanting this team to just get it inside 5 seconds on that 45-second clock before attempting a shot.
The Commodores lost 5 of their last 7 games prior to the tournament and 6 of their last 10. So they had to turn it on once again in postseason play. Vandy knocked off some powers like North Carolina, Kentucky, and Florida this year. This is their 3rd trip to the NCAA Tournament, and the clock now running down to 8 seconds. Goheen with 5 seconds to go. The open man is Booker, and Booker is fouled.
It worked out absolutely perfect for C.M. Newton. Vic Miller picking up that foul with 2 seconds left on the 45-second clock.
Barry Booker, who has hit a few three-point baskets of his own, and C.M. Newton, the SEC Coach of the Year, and Paul Evans now has to find the answer. And it was Pittsburgh who failed to get past the second round when they lost to Oklahoma last year, trying to get over that hurdle this year. They very nearly had it in regulation until this final shot by Barry Goheen, Billy.
The beauty of what Goheen does here is he realizes he can't make a pass. He's got to take the responsibility on his own shoulders and try and force this shot up. 2 Pittsburgh defenders, absolutely perfect defense, but a great shot. Now, defensively, you have to think if they make these 2 foul shots, or even if they're missed, they might look to go to a good pressure defense at this point, trying to eliminate that three-point shot by the Pittsburgh Panthers.
Will Perdue, the big man for Vanderbilt, their leading scorer, shooter, rebounder, top player in the SEC, fouled out. There he is now, and the burden in the inside falls to Frank Cornett, and if Vanderbilt can win this game with Perdue on the sidelines, it would be a great achievement for them.
You know, Will Perdue walking to the sideline said, "This is the end of my college career." And how quickly and how zany this game of basketball is, you never know what's going to happen.
The story, Vanderbilt has 1 timeout, Pitt 3. The possession arrow favors the Commodores, and here's Barry Booker. This is his first free throw attempt today. 77% from the line on the year. And you know, you talk about last games. Charles Smith has to be thinking of the same thing on the other side for Pitt.
And he's had a great basketball game out here, being able to play so long with 4 fouls.
He got an early foul trouble with 3. Hung in there. But Booker 1 out of 2. Here's Sean Miller. No good, and over the top is Smith, and that'll be his 5th foul, and he's gone. And very earnestly now Charles Smith may be looking at his last collegiate game. If that's number 5, and it is, he will have fouled out. Charles Smith has fouled out as the all-time leading scorer in Pitt basketball history. 21 points and 10 rebounds today, and he gets a well-deserved standing ovation.
What a career. 4 years at Pittsburgh, rejuvenated the whole basketball program, and has been able to lift it to this level almost single-handedly.
A 4-point lead for Vanderbilt with 12 seconds to go. And Vandy will be shooting 1-1 here. And with 12 seconds to go, a chance to ice this game. Bobby Martin, the freshman, replaces him. C.M. Newton, twice Coach of the Year at Alabama, SEC Coach of the Year. 19 of his 31 years as a coach, C.M. Newton, have been spent in the Southeastern Conference.
Started out coaching at Transylvania. Just, you know, he's such a class human being, but we still have a chance here.
Hornet missed the front end of the one-on-one lane, going for 3. Loose ball, and it's into the hands of Goheen. 3 seconds to go, and a foul is called, but it's going to be Vanderbilt to advance. The Commodores, who are tied for 4th in the Southeastern Conference. Disappointment for Paul Evans as Pitt, with a 3-point lead and 4 seconds to go, saw this game go into overtime, and Vanderbilt dominated by scoring the first 6 points of this overtime session, even with their star Will Perdue on the bench. And Vanderbilt, the 7th seed, will advance to Pontiac, Michigan. And C.M. Newton, who played on a Kentucky championship team 37 years ago, will lead his team to Pontiac in the Midwest semifinals on Friday. Tough weekend for the Big East. Syracuse eliminated yesterday, and Georgetown and Pitt go by the boards this afternoon, Bill.
Well, it falls upon Villanova then, and Seton Hall to do well. And of course, Seton Hall has quite a matchup playing against Arizona.
That's it. Vanderbilt has won. The Vanderbilt Commodores have defeated Pittsburgh 80-74. Last game for Charles Smith. Disappointment for the Panthers. 22 for Barry Goheen, the leading scorer, and the guy that sent it into overtime. Perdue had 15 before he fouled out. 21 for Charles Smith of Pitt, and a great 23 rebound effort by Jerome Lane. Thank you very much, Bill Cunningham. Vanderbilt has won. The final score: Commodores 80, the Panthers 74. And right now, let's go to Jim Nance in our New York studios.
All right, Dick Stockton. So Pittsburgh becomes the highest seeded team eliminated from the tournament. A 2 seed is out. Now let's talk about Chevy MVPs. For Vanderbilt, Will Perdue, the center. He did not play in the overtime, which makes the win even that much more impressive. And Darrell Porter for Pittsburgh. So Vanderbilt advances. This becomes a Cinderella team. And with that big-footed center, Will Perdue, they can order up the glass slipper now at Vanderbilt in size 21-7A. This team is advancing to the Sweet 16, James.
Sounds a little like Bob Lanier with the big foot there. But, Jimmy, I'm a big proponent of having this extremely good guard play in tournament time. Again, the freshman player really didn't come through like Pittsburgh needed it.
Georgia Tech is coming back on Richmond. Closing seconds in Hartford. Let's join Brent and Billy for the finish of this exciting game.
Welcome back to the Hartford Civic Center. Congratulations to Vanderbilt. Here we have a Donnybrook unfolding too. And now 4 of the 6 teams from the Big East have been eliminated in this NCAA tournament. Georgia Tech has struggled all afternoon. They trail Richmond in the blue jerseys by 3 with 48 seconds remaining. I'm Brent Musburger with Billy Packer. Billy, Georgia Tech must foul right away. Hope for a break. They've got some great three-point shooters on the floor. And they break Woolfolk. Brilliantly devised play by Richmond during the timeout. Scott comes up. It's a 3-point shot by Scott. And now it's a 2-point lead with 32 seconds to go. Got a foul. They've got a foul. And they put him on the line with 28 seconds to go.
I think Oliver, he's got 4 fouls on him, but that makes no difference. You've got to sacrifice yourself in a situation like this. Dick Tarrant went long, and that's something that a lot of coaches do use, but it was a perfect pass, and Woolfolk, of course, can take it all the way.
Billy, we have a lot of new fans with us right now for the end of this game. A little bit of an overview on what we've seen here with Georgia Tech and Richmond.
Well, we've seen a great defense in the first half by Richmond. They just kept Georgia Tech at bay. Georgia Tech only had 18 points at halftime, could not score.
It's a 3-point lead. Taylor is 96% from the line. Why they were reluctant to foul him down at the other end.
He scored the last 7 points in the CAA championship tournament this year. Kind of cool.
And Richmond, the team which eliminated Bob Knight in Indiana, now is on the verge of going down to New Jersey in the regional final. 25 seconds, up by 4, and Georgia Tech must hurry.
They should go for 2 here, not 3.
And Scott goes for the 3.
That hit the underneath part of the basket. Nobody saw it. I think, Brent, when you're down 4, you should go for a 2-point play and not worry about hitting another 3. Take it to the hoop inside to Hammonds.
Oliver missing. Woolfolk, who has been a standout all game long. How about the Richmond Spiders?
You see Dick Tarrant using a defensive team and an offensive team. He's been a masterful coach in this tournament. As he said, this was his Final Four. Do you think he believes it now, Brent, that he can't go any further?
He said at the top of the broadcast, in case you missed it, I would just like to get to the Meadowlands. I would consider that the Final Four. We're not big enough, we're not deep enough, and we're not good enough to get to Kansas City. He has now changed his mind, as you pointed out, Billy.
One more tournament.
The rock is up. Knocked out of bounds. Richmond's ball. That should do it. The smallest school left in the tournament is about to eliminate Georgia Tech after having knocked out Bob Knight and Indiana, last year's champion. 2,700 students down in Richmond of the Colonial Association, and it is so nice to see the Atlantic 10 and the Colonial come alive here at tournament time. The crowd chanting Sweet 16 in the background, and how sweet that music is to that coach's ears.
You know, Dick Tarrant is now 5-2, Brent, in NCAA tournament play as a head coach at Richmond. That's pretty strong.
This has been a great Sunday. Temple started off with the victory. Then in overtime, Vanderbilt upsets Pittsburgh. Now Kentucky has beaten Maryland. Kentucky in that Southeast will play the winner of the Villanova-Illinois game. Vandy will go against the winner of Kansas-Murray State. Here it'll be Richmond going down to play Temple. Already Duke and Rhode Island there in the East. Farrell's 3 not there, and Richmond advances. Jim Nance and James Brown, the question is, how many Cinderellas can fit into a glass slipper? I'll send you back now to Jim and James in New York City.
Hi, Brett. Well, that's 2 within a span of about 5 minutes, and that's what makes this tournament so great, JB, as we see in this 5-minute span, the highest team eliminated to this point, a 2 seed in Pittsburgh, and the lowest seed to advance to the Sweet 16. Richmond, a 13 seed in the East, is advancing on now to the Meadowlands. Let's talk about the Chevy MVPs from this ball game for Richmond. Pete Woolfolk with a career-high 28 points, and Dennis Scott for Georgia Tech. So let's show you what the East situation looks like now. The Meadowlands is set. upset. It's Temple against Richmond, Rhode Island against Duke. You know, going into the tournament, it was said that the East was the most difficult of all 4 regions. It's really been a horror show for some of the giants that were set out in the East, with an 11th seed and a 13th seed advancing now to East Rutherford. The East is rated R with Richmond and Rhode Island. And we will continue with our coverage on the road to the Final Four in just a moment.
Why not?
Well, the law of averages has finally taken over. Yesterday, not too many close games, only 2 games decided by 15 points or less. And here in the last half an hour, we've seen all close games. The upset by Vanderbilt in overtime, and Richmond winning in the big upset over Georgia Tech. Let's talk about the final scores from today. Georgetown and Temple led things off. Temple opened this game up in the second half and won it 74-53. First time to a regional under John Chaney as he gets over that obstacle the first weekend of the tournament, much like Purdue, the team that had struggled for so many years to get to the regionals. Now another score from the East. Georgia Tech and Richmond. We just saw the finish of that game. Georgia Tech, we just learned now, 19 for 59 from the floor in that game. The Richmond Spiders of Dick Tarrant playing like tarantulas on defense as they shut down the Yellow Jackets in that game and advance on. Richmond will play Temple at the Meadowlands on Thursday. In Cincinnati, Maryland and Kentucky. This was a close game. The score a little bit deceiving. Kentucky wins it 90-81. What a second half there by Rex Chapman. He is the Chevy MVP for the Wildcats, as he had 20 second-half points, leading Kentucky. Rex reigning control there in the second half, and Brian Williams of Maryland was the Chevy MVP for the Terrapins. Now, some post-game interviews Vern Lundquist and Tommy Heinsohn conducted as the Wildcats move on with that victory.
Okay. Eddie, I thought you did a terrific coaching job, especially defensively, when Rob Locke got in trouble and you had to come in with Ron Ellis. Really, the tactics were very important.
We did a much better job late in the ball game of keeping the ball out of Williams' hands. He was really tough and hurt us, not only when Locke was on him, but when LaRon Ellis was on him as well. But our defense did tighten up a little in that second half. And, of course, Rex Chapman, he had a horrible first half shooting the ball. I think he was 1 out of 6 at the line and 1 out of 6 from the field. And he's just a much better basketball player than that. I think anybody that saw him play in the second half would attest to that.
Were you surprised at how Maryland just stuck to you? You couldn't shake them at all.
Maryland's a very good basketball team. You know, they've made so much progress during the second half of the season. They beat Duke at Durham. They lost by 1 point at North Carolina, Chapel Hill, beat Georgia Tech in the tournament. This ball club is very good, and they certainly were deserving to be in the tournament.
Well, it's a great test for your ball club now as you head down to Birmingham, Eddie.
Well, we're happy to go. It means we're 1 out of the 16, and you play them 1 at a time. We got 4 left to be a national champ, and we're one of the teams that's got a chance.
I know you.
All right, so Eddie Sutton's team advances on to Birmingham in the Sweet 16 and will take on the winner of the Illinois-Villanova game, which we'll tip in just a few minutes. Now, the other winner from today, Vanderbilt in overtime against Pittsburgh. The great performance there by Goheen. 22 points for him as the Commodores win it. The 7th seed in that region, knocking off the number 2 seed Pittsburgh, 80-74. And that's the action that's taken place so far. We have a lot more coming your way. Well, James, tell us about it.
If you called yesterday blowout Saturday, then this has to be nip and tuck Sunday. And coming up for you right after this here on CBS, most of you will see the Seton Hall, Arizona game. Of course, that ought to be a good one, as well as others seeing Villanova against Illinois or Murray State against Kansas. And those games will be coming your way, and we'll get you set for those right after this message and a word from your local station. James Brown and Jim Nance back here in New York. And, Jimmy, I don't think you have to be a basketball junkie to enjoy the lineup we've seen so far.
No, it's been a great day of action. 4 finals in. 64 teams, of course, started on Thursday. We're now down to only 20 teams in the chase to Kansas.
New York.
All right, James Brown and Jim Nance back in New York. We still have a lot of good action coming up. As a matter of fact, most of you will be seeing the action that's about to come your way. Seton Hall in Arizona, of course, that's the game that'll be coming up, but others of you will see Murray State in Kansas. And that ought to be a good one as well. And we'll have more for you and bring you up to date on the brackets, as well as take you out to that Murray State and Kansas game, as I mentioned. That'll be coming your way in about 10 minutes, but we'll get you caught up on the brackets in just a moment.
playing and coaching the Celtics. He's just a terrific guy.
Well, he's one of Billy Cunningham's best friends, one of our colleagues, and working with Billy last year, I got to know Rollie. You can't spend any time with him without just absolutely enjoying him. He's he's
Billy,
animated.
I think Billy told him, don't go and coach the New Jersey Nets. You'll have more fun in college basketball because the pro game is too much pressure, and I think Rollie took Billy's advice.
That's quite true. He called Billy and wanted to know what to do, and Billy said, don't go, and Rollie didn't. Barter with the line. No! Taylor rebound. Lead is 6, 2:15 to go.
Well, they're pecking away and pecking away.
Wilson, huge three-point effort. Foul. Tom Grice. That's 5. Tom Grice had a big day. 13 points, 16 rebounds.
Rollie was really upset with Wilson for taking that shot. Only down 6 points with 2 minutes, 10 seconds to go. Plenty of time to run something and still get a three-pointer if it was there.
Reverse the numbers, 16 points and 13 rebounds for Grice, and Kuyaba at the line. Lead at 7. 2:05 to go. Plansky, Becca down at the high point. That shot for 3 points for Plansky. The lead is now 4, and we're under 2 minutes by 2 seconds. Villanova very much in this ball game.
We're going to try to take you where the action is hot also in Lincoln. 14th seeded Murray State with a 1-point lead over Kansas. 3 minutes and change there. Now the Racers were down 8 in the first half. The Racers erased that 8-point deficit, now lead. They've been aided by 2 4-point plays in the second half. They have the basketball and a 1-point lead. 3 minutes to go. Right now, let's take you back to Cincinnati. Vernon Thomas.
Back in Cincinnati, Kendall Gill at the fast break gets a big basket, and the lead is back to 6. 1:53 to go in the ball game.
That sure was a great basket as Villanova came out of that timeout and really put on the hard zone press defense, the trap, and boy, did they read it beautifully. And the backcourt was totally uncovered. And Gill just steamed to the hoop.
Gill shoots 1. He's got 10. The lead at 7. Rodney Taylor. Plansky turns around and quickly takes a wonderful three-pointer. Oh, how he got that off so quickly.
Oh, he's gotten 2 off that have been unbelievable.
It's back to a 4-point margin. 1:41 remaining.
But it doesn't hurt.
Villanova's been struggling to get back, and Plansky has hit 2 big 3-point shots, and there's one. And the best part of that play, in addition to the shot, was Taylor making the pass and getting the defender to commit just the extra second to allow Plansky to get the shot off.
Saw that Villanova has 1 timeout left. Illinois with 3. Backdoor foul on Mark Plansky. Plansky 3 of 7 from 3-point range now, has 14 points in the ball game.
Smart foul that time by Villanova as they inbounded the ball, got it to Kuyaba, and there was a man steaming up the sideline, but before he could make the pass, they laid the wood on him.
Lead is 4, 1:35 to go. Plansky pops out. They look underneath for Beckenham. Keep in mind that Grice is on the bench. Foul, and Plansky goes to the line. Mark Plansky is an 81% free throw shooter. There's Tom Grice, who had a big game, but is out with 5 fouls. Mark Plansky, senior from Wakefield, goes to the line.
That's why he was very upset in the last ball game when he fouled out, because he's the take charge guy coming down the stretch.
Plansky misses. The front end of the 1-and-1. Kayava had Enright with a steal. Elbow. It's Illinois.
A jump ball is called.
Chihuahua, in his eagerness not to end up at the free throw line again, anticipating getting fouled, just tapped the ball.
Possession arrow pointing Illinois' direction. They have a 4-point lead, 1:17 to go. Enright swats at the ball, hits the player. And Steve Bardo will go to the line. Illinois keeps a statistic on free throws in the final 4 minutes of games. And Steve Bardo is going to the line now for the season. He is 12 of 18 in the final 4 minutes of game, hitting 67%, which is roughly a little higher than his season average.
Well, they missed some big ones coming down the stretch from the foul line.
1:06 to go. Enright off balance shot. Foul underneath. Rodney Taylor, his third. And that's going to put Bardo back at the line.
Lou Henson saying to himself, when are my boys going to hit a couple here at crunch time?
Final score, Arizona out of the Pac-10, the #1 seed in the West, goes on to play the winner of UNLV Iowa in Seattle next week, next Friday night. And that game will be televised on CBS in prime time. Here's Battle. It was Battle at the line and not Bardo, but he can't hit. Oh, boy, they can't hit free throws in the last 2 minutes. Or haven't today, that is. Pick from Beckenham. Three-pointers good, Wilson.
Field goal by Kenny Wilson. Timeout.
Villanova uses its final timeout. They trail by 1.
What they did so great that time is they set up a pick, a pocket actually, on either side for Wilson to use that just to get the shot off, like an old pro pick and roll play. You know, watch him come up here. Beckenham just set the pick. And look at, he slips into the pocket. Chihuahua never gets out there fast enough. And look at everybody jump for joy. And what an irony. Here it is again. Right over the top of the 7-footer.
Watch rolling as the three-pointer goes in. A quick call of a timeout. That's their final one.
What they have to do right now, Illinois, is
we're going to take some of you to Lincoln, Nebraska.
Scooter Barry is all over man, and his shot is off the rim. 1 second to go. 1 second to go, and a foul called against Murray State, and Kansas is going to survive and move on. This will not be Danny Manning's last game, as Kansas will survive. Here's what happened in the final seconds. With 1 second to go, Murray State trying to take the lead over the Jayhawks.
They spread the court in a 1-4 set. Scooter Barry, you got to give the kid credit. He does the job defensively, and the help from Danny Manning on the defense, and Manning getting that rebound.
Big biggest rebound of his career because it might have been the last game if he had not picked it up.
Not only his last game, what about Larry
So
Brown?
Danny Manning put Kansas in front with 37 seconds left with a basket. Murray State on the last second attempt, no good. And Manning, the player of the year in college basketball, comes down with the rebound.
And here is the coach.
Larry Brown looking on anxiously as Murray State shot misfires, and Manning comes down with the rebound. He hits the first free throw, 24 now for the game for Manning.
And you know, if you have 1 second,
Or 48 seconds, meanwhile, and Cincinnati left.
You could possibly make that long pass, and then
Manning with 24. This can put the lead at 3 with 1 second left. Kansas up 3 on the 14th seeded Murray State Racers.
1 second to play.
Right now, let's take you back to Cincinnati, where Illinois is on the line shooting a 1-and-1 and up at the moment over Villanova.
You know, once you miss them.
Got it. We welcome those of you who watch Kansas Murray State's game, 61-58 in that one. Our score now with 48 seconds to go. Illinois 61-59. Steve Bartow on the line, hitting the second half of a 1-and-1. Got one, missed the second. A 2-point game, 45 seconds to go. And Kenny Wilson and Plansky have hit 3 3-pointers in the last 3 minutes. That's Enright. They've got Plansky spotting up on the left side. Nailed it! Pat Enright!
Enright.
Timeout, Illinois!
Timeout, Illinois.
Senior co-captain wants a walk-on. He's now 10 of 28 for the year from three-point range.
Pick and roll again worked. They allowed him to get into the teeth of the defense, and the defense had to react. That allowed Enright to pop up in the corner and hit that shot.
We have 23 seconds left. Watch Lou Henson. Tom, 23 seconds to go. You're down by 1.
Well, you got to go to the guy that you feel can put a good one-on-one move. And I wouldn't be a bit surprised because I think Raleigh will go out and have to play man-to-man, play tough on somebody. Now, Bartow has been able to get over Wilson, maybe play a little pick and roll. Although, just to get him by, and Wilson leaning a little bit.
Welcome back, those of you who've been watching the Murray State-Kansas game. Pat Enright, a senior co-captain, as Kansas defeats Murray State. There's Tom Grice on the bench with 5 fouls, fouled out with 13 rebounds and 16 points did the sophomore 7'2" center. And Pat Enright hit the three-pointer that has put Villanova back on top after trailing by 14 earlier in this half. 23 seconds to go. And Villanova's on a 16-5 streak in the last 2.5 minutes. Underneath.
Basket by Kenny Battle.
Ken Battle. And he'll shoot a free throw.
Had a beautiful play. Now you see the ball get swung, and Battle just gets great position inside on Taylor and just powers his way up as Villanova attacked him. But the way Villanova's been shooting threes, anything's liable to happen.
Battle over the course of the season in the final 4 minutes, a 65% free throw shooter. True to form.
They'd have this game won.
They're out of timeouts. Kenny Wilson with the ball. The fake. Foul. Mark Plansky will have a chance at the line to put Villanova back on top. What a heads-up play by the senior from Wakefield, Mass.
And that's what happens when you start rushing at three-point shooters. A good, smart player will fake you at a key point. Now, you watch. Comes down the sideline, and Plansky coming off into the corner, and a little up fake just lifts that man with his eagerness to block the shot, and that put Plansky on the line with the possibility of turning it to Villanova's favor.
Illinois calls time. For the season, Mark Plansky just at 77% from the free throw line with under 4 minutes remaining. His last trip there, he missed. But a fine pump fake before he took the shot forced Kendall Gill into the foul. And now the senior, Plansky, the only remaining member of the '85 national championship team, will attempt to keep the dream alive for Villanova.
And he has had plenty of time to think about making this shot, and that's not what a player likes. Let's see how he handles it.
He is shooting two. Now he's shooting one for the lead. Intercepted. Rod Taylor. Intentional foul.
Please stay off the play.
1 second remaining.
Was that ice water in Plansky's veins? I will tell you, that was some kind of thing. And we talked about how much he wanted to be part of that game, which he fouled out. That's the reason why he feels that he has to assume that type of role for his ball club. Make the clutch shots, clutch foul shots.
Five fouls on Kenny Battle, so he's out of the ball game.
Final foul. Substitution for the Fighting Illini. 21, Glenn Blackwell.
Glenn Blackwell comes back in. And Rod Taylor shoots two, and Villanova has the ball.
Well, you better know how to defend three-point shooters. Because if you race at them, they can really do a number on you. You got to keep a man with a three-point shooter and deny him the ball.
Three-point shots and free throws. 19 of 27 for Villanova. For Illinois, 10 of 23, including none in the last 4 minutes. And Villanova leads by 3. The dream is alive just where it began in 1985.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been NCAA Tournament.
It's Villanova and Kentucky bound for Birmingham next Thursday night. Villanova wins it by 3.
Next from CBS Sports, the NCAA Basketball Championship continues.
The ball is tipped. Feel the touch tonight. The rhythm's in your shot. When your step is light, the crowd goes wild. This but you've known with another game to be almost home. To that one shining moment you reach for the sky, one shining moment you knew.
Good evening. I'm Jim Nance along with James Brown, and welcome to CBS Sports' continuing coverage of the road to the Final Four. Tonight, a regional semifinal doubleheader, starting with the Battle of the Wildcats, Villanova against Kentucky. Now, in our second game, most of you will see Louisville square off against Oklahoma. Those of you in New York City, Eastern Pennsylvania, and West Virginia will watch Richmond challenge top-ranked Temple. Now, James, the round of 16 is already underway here tonight.
All right, Jimmy, as a matter of fact, about 20 minutes ago, action got started in the East Regional between Duke and Rhode Island. Now, Duke had been leading by as much as 13 points in that game. Right now, the score, Duke is only leading by 4, 18-14, and we'll keep you updated on that action throughout the night. But right now, we're getting set for Villanova against Kentucky. Dick Stockton and Billy Cunningham will have the action for you when the road to the Final Four continues here on CBS.
CBS Sports coverage of today's NCAA Basketball Championship Regional Semifinal game from Birmingham is sponsored by Bud Light. Everything else is just a light. Mercedes-Benz, engineered like no other car in the world. And by Embassy Suites Hotels, where you get a beautiful two-room suite for the price of a single room.
Welcome to Birmingham, Alabama for the Southeast Regional Semifinals. They have come from the bluegrass country of Kentucky, from the main line of Philadelphia, and from the fields of Oklahoma. And they have come to see Kentucky's shooting sensation Rex Chapman, Rollie Massimino's Villanova long shots, Louisville's inside force, Purvis Ellison, and Billy Tubbs' shoot-'em-up Oklahoma Sooners. It is the Southeast Regional Semifinals, where tonight, later on, it'll be Louisville against Oklahoma, but right now, it's Villanova against Kentucky. And good evening, everyone. I'm Dick Stockton. When you think about tradition in college basketball, you must think about Kentucky. 33 appearances in the NCAA Championship, unparalleled. They have won 5 NCAA titles. When you think of underdog, you must think of Villanova, because they relished that role and they rode that horse to a championship dramatically 3 years ago, and they're trying to ride that horse again. Working with me is Billy Cunningham, and Billy, I would think that the main concern for the Villanova Wildcats is an outstanding guard tandem of Kentucky.
Oh, yes, with Rex Chapman and Ed Davender, you have 2 guards so far in the tournament averaging over 49 points a game. So Rollie Massimino has to come up with a game plan to try and keep these 2 players under control.
And Billy, I'd have to say that maybe the big story of the year for Villanova happens to be in the middle, Tom Grice. 7'2" sophomore. He was much maligned a year ago, but he has given the Wildcats much needed presence that they lacked inside last year. He already has 10 rebounds, averaging 10 rebounds in 2 NCAA games.
Well, what a difference a year makes. Last year, Rollie didn't want to see him. Now he says if they have any chance against this Wildcat team, he has.
With the UAB Athletic Department, welcome to the Birmingham Jefferson Civic Center for tonight's Southeastern Regional Semifinal game between the Villanova Wildcats and the Kentucky Wildcats. Now let's meet the starting lineups. For Villanova, at forward, a 6'7" sophomore from Columbia, South Carolina, number 35, Rodney Taylor. For Kentucky, at forward, a 6'7" senior from Louisville, Kentucky, number 25, Winston Bennett. For Villanova, at forward, a 6'6" senior from Wakefield, Massachusetts, number 31, Mark Wensky. For Kentucky at forward, a 6'6" freshman from Macon, Georgia, number 23, Eric Manuel. For Villanova, at center, a 7'2" sophomore from Huntington, New York, number 33, Tom Grice. For Kentucky at center, a 6'11" senior from Reedley, California, number 44, Rob Locke. For Villanova, at guard, a 5'9" junior from Jersey City, New Jersey, number 3, Kenny Wilson. For Kentucky, at guard, a 6'4" sophomore from Owensboro, Kentucky, number 3, Rex Chapman. For Villanova, at guard, a 6'6" junior from Altoona, Pennsylvania, number 42, Doug West. For Kentucky at guard, a 6'2" senior from Brooklyn, New York, number 15, Ed Davender. And introducing the head coaches for Villanova in his 15th season, Rolly Massimino. For Kentucky, his 4th season, Eddie Sutton.
Kentucky has won all 3 previous meetings between these two teams, and we'll be back with the opening tip-off here in Birmingham in just a moment. Massimino team since the field was extended to 64. Kentucky controls, and Billy Cunningham, the big question of tempo should rear its head in this one.
Well, Rolly Massimino feels if they have any chance, they have to keep the score in the 60s. As a matter of fact, before the game, he put a magical number up on the board. He felt that they had to hold Kentucky to 66.
Well, he's got only 63 left because Rex Chapman has started it out with a 3-point bomb. He is the leading scorer for the Wildcats, but now Kenny Wilson in the backcourt along with Doug West. Davender is on Wilson, man-to-man Kentucky.
And that's what we'll see from them. We'll see Villanova go into multiple defenses, traps, man-to-man, and also matchup zone.
Inside to Grice. Villanova will use a lot of the clock.
Good pressure defense by Kentucky.
Doug West takes the first shot for Villanova. He is their leading scorer, nearly 16 a game. He suffered a slight concussion in the first half against Illinois, but he says he's 100% now. And time is called as one of the fans or cheerleaders threw out, I'm sure it was a fan, threw out a streamer. There is Eddie Sutton, coach of Kentucky, and you see the first half score, Duke leading Rhode Island in the first half in the Eastern Regional in East Rutherford. Kentucky with basically 3 guards if you count Eric Manuel, who has started 8 games since moving into a forward position.
Well, that was the decision Eddie Sutton made. He felt he needed more offense, and he went with the 3 guards, same system he had in 1985.
Manuel puts a fake on Plansky. The rebound to Grice and into the hands of Kenny Wilson. He controls the team. Wilson, a 2-point shot for Kenny Wilson.
Voted the defensive player in the Big East. Watch this defensive play coming from behind and getting Davender.
1 basket in the last 5 minutes of the first half for Kentucky. Villanova leads it, and CBS Sports coverage of the NCAA Basketball Championship will continue after this message and a word from your local station.
Sports coverage of the NCAA Basketball Championship is sponsored by Mazda, bringing performance and value together. That's the Mazda way. Taco Bell. Say hello to the unique taste of Mexican pizza. Say hello, Taco Bell. And by Honda Power Equipment, lawn and garden products that are built to last.
Villanova put the clamps on Kentucky the final 5 minutes of the half, outscoring Kentucky 14-3, and Villanova leads it in Birmingham Southeast Regional Semifinal. All right, welcome back to New York once again. Jim Nance along with James Brown. Massimino up to his old magic, but upsets the name of the game right now in the tournament. Villanova over Kentucky. And James, a major story right now happening at the Meadowlands.
A good one going on in the East. Rhode Island in no way is in awe of Duke University at all. Pretty much a seesaw game in the first half that saw Rhode Island trailing by 1 to Duke University. Right now, Rhode Island is leading that game 51-49, and that despite the fact that Tom Garrick has 3 personal fouls, the teammates have picked up. Let's tune in with Tim Brandt and Bill Raftery for the remaining minutes in that game.
All right,
right, James, I want to welcome those of you who have been watching the Villanova-Kentucky game from Birmingham, Alabama. And Villanova leads that one 43-32 at the half. Here, it's Rhode Island 51, Duke 49, and a bit of a surprise. Duke jumped out to an 18-5 lead, mainly because the Rhode Island guard started off a little bit shaky. As you look at the game summary, Rhode Island began playing a more physical defense. It bothered Duke. Ferry missed 5 shots in a row. Rhode Island went on a 15-4 run to go up 30-28. The lead seesawed back and forth. Duke led by 1 at the half. And then Rhode Island went on an 8-2 tear to start the second half. And right now it's 51-49 with Kenny Green at the line for the Rams.
The look of concern on Mike Krzyzewski. His club unable to stop the penetration of the guards. Rhode Island turning the corner and really breaking down that interior defense.
Green misses the first one. He's a 71% free throw shooter. 6'8", 200-pound sophomore from Waterbury, Connecticut. He has 7 points, and he's 3 for 5 from the line tonight. Rebound Strickland for the Blue Devils.
Tom Penders switched to the 2-3, did it once in the first half, trying to save Owens from maybe picking up another foul.
Ferry, who's really struggled offensively tonight, and misses another one.
Every time Danny Ferry gets it, the inside people, particularly Kenny Green, all over him.
Owens a little bit out of control. This is Cena. Mergen Cena now has 12.
The contributor does the little things that help a club.
This is for 3, Strickland. The Rams don't hesitate. They push it back. Nice follow inside. A rebound, Ferry.
Right back at you.
And it'll be Duke ball.
This is more of the pace I expected.
Ferry, 14 points. Owens for Rhode Island, 16 points. Definitely has the field, but you'll have to be impressed with Rhode Island. They are not in awe of the ACC, the powerhouse, the champion, Duke.
All right, and Rhode Island leading that one by 1 right now. Jimmy, you got to be impressed that Garrick isn't trying to force the action at all with his teammates picking up the roll.
Owens is just incredible. The guards for that team just remarkable. And we'll get you back to some more of that game as we continue at halftime here on CBS in just a moment. So it was a 7-point lead with 2 minutes to go for Duke. Rhode Island scored, then Quinn Snyder missed a 1-on-1 for the Blue Devils. Back came Ken Green with 2 free throws. So it's a 3-point lead. We'll keep you posted. Right now, let's go back to Birmingham.
Very well for Rolly Massimino, using the clock as well as getting the 2 points.
Kentucky will be in a lot more of a hurry as Bennett's shot is short. Plansky has it, and now Kentucky will have to foul. Wilson goes around, chews it up. Kentucky has no choice here. They're leading by 6, and Plansky will go to the line to shoot 1 and 1. 6 points is not out of the range for Kentucky when you have Rex Chapman. But if Villanova's Plansky can make the free throws, that'll make it awfully difficult as Eddie Sutton calls a timeout for Kentucky. So Villanova is 33 seconds away from having the dream of this year continue. Second game coming up here in Birmingham between Louisville and Oklahoma. Oklahoma, the top seed in the region, going against Denny Crum's Cardinals, who have made it a practice of coming to the Final Four in the 1980s. He'll play the winner of this one, and Plansky on the line, 1 and 1. Villanova perfect from the free throw line tonight. Now they're 14 for 14.
And this guy in the line was the one that hit the 2 foul shots against Illinois in the last 4 seconds. So he's not the one you would like to foul.
Plansky's put a signature on 3 big wins, including a couple of Big East triumphs. The lead is 8. Look for Chapman to go for 3. Davender, an air ball. Bennett follows up with 23 seconds, and Kentucky calls a timeout. Bennett has cut the lead to 8-6, and that's the last timeout that Kentucky has. And we'll be back to Birmingham in just a moment. Kentucky has no timeouts remaining, and Villanova will inbound. There'll be full court pressure by Kentucky. They need the ball. They need 2 possessions and 2 3-pointers to tie this game with 23 seconds left.
And they have to get the steal or look to pick up the foul.
Lansky got it inbound. Finds Wilson, 17 seconds. Wilson is fouled and no choice. Forget about fouling the wrong guy. They had no choice, and Rolly Massimino says he has this game packed in, a 6-point lead with 11 seconds to go. Don't foul is what he's saying, and Wilson will go to the line, the best free throw shooter on the Villanova club.
Well, what happens now is that Kentucky cannot stop the clock. So with 11 seconds to play, you know, this is a Villanova victory.
So Kentucky's disappointment etched on the faces of their fine team. Villanova has not missed from the free throw lines. 17 out of 17, and the Wildcats, barring a huge miracle, will advance. Chapman gets it with 6 seconds to go, no timeouts left. So the Villanova Wildcats, and the great similarity to the 1985 miracle, lives for another day. Villanova upsets Kentucky and gets to the field of 8 in this year's NCAA championship.
There's Eddie Sutton, and they've had a great season themselves. Kentucky getting this far, and any team that gets to the Final 16 has had an outstanding year.
Villanova set the tempo early on, didn't they?
They set the tempo, and they were able to, well, the number that Rolly Massimino set was 66. They didn't reach it, but I'm sure he's not complaining. And there's a man, Tom Price. Everyone thought that he was going to be the factor in the ball game, even his coach, Rolly Massimino. But it was the other players for the Villanova Ball Club that were able to carry them to victory.
Villanova ends Kentucky's 9-game winning streak. All 5 Villanova starters scored in double figures, and so here in Birmingham in the Southeast Regional, Villanova will play the winner of the game coming up next between Louisville and Oklahoma. A surprise here in the Southeast. Right now, let's send it back to Jim Nance in New York. Jim?
Thank you very much, Dick, and what a start here tonight. Jim Nance along with James Brown back in Studio 43 in New York. We've seen Duke hold on for a 1-point win over Rhode Island, and Villanova pull off the surprise in Birmingham. I think Coach Massimino likes playing in Birmingham. That's his lucky spot, just like 1985. As a matter of fact, the 2 teams that have advanced now to the field of 8, Villanova and Duke, both have been to the championship game in the last 3 years. Villanova in '85 and Duke in '86. The Chevy MVPs, Doug West for Villanova tonight. He had 20 points for the Wildcats, and for Kentucky, Rex Chapman 30 points in a losing cause. Now, coming up still later tonight, most of you will be seeing next Louisville against Oklahoma. That's coming up in just a few minutes, while others will see, including New York City, Richmond against Temple. And we'll continue here on the road. Eliminated. First it was Pitt last Sunday, and now it's Kentucky, as Villanova, the 6th seed in the Southeast, pulls it off 80-74. Again, Birmingham, the same spot where they went to the championship game and won it back in 1985. Rolly Massimino owning Birmingham, much like Bear Bryant used to. Let's go out to Dick Stockton now in Birmingham.
I don't know what this man is sweating about. Rolly Massimino, who keeps the beat going for Villanova, and Doug West, who led 5 double-figure scores with 20. Rolly, you thought Grice would be a key man, was in foul trouble, and yet the Wildcats seemed to set the tempo early on.
Yes, they did, Dick. We shot the ball extremely well, and they mixed up the defenses. The kids were outstanding. What can I tell you? There's something about this team, as we said last night to you and Billy, they're unique.
Hey, Doug, you know, today I thought that you got some excellent screens to come off and shoot the ball, and your execution at the set offensive end was very good.
Yeah, that was one of the things that we were working on. We're working on setting good screens. I was coming off the screens, the passes were there, my man was trailing me, so the shot was open.
Now, did you have any effect when you started the ball game with that concussion you had in the last ball game?
No, I had no effect of the concussion at all until halftime. My neck tightened up a little bit, but I got some heat on it, and I was feeling okay the second half.
What about about Gary Massey? I know that Chapman had a great game, but it seemed that he came in at the right time when it looked like Chapman was getting...
Well, we went to our 2-minute defense, which is a little bit like a boxing one, as soon as he hit the first 3. And then every 3 thereafter, we went in his face. We tried to. He's a great, great basketball player. But the kids adjusted. The other 4, Dick, did such a great job. I'm amazed. I thought they were great. They really were.
They were great. So the one Big East team that was left is still left, and they'll play the winner of Oklahoma-Louisville. Let's go upstairs now to Jim Nance in New York. Jim?
All right, thank you very much, Dick. And, of course, more basketball action coming up your way tonight. Most of you will be seeing that Louisville-Oklahoma game. We'll continue on the road to the Final Four after this word from your local station. Let's pick up the final seconds of that call with Tim Brandt and Bill Raftery.
For 3. No timeouts remaining for Rhode Island. It's over.
So, unable to put a Blue Devil on the line, Duke is able to win the game by 1 over Rhode Island, 73-72. Carlton Owens, the MVP of the game, Chevy MVP for the Rams with 19. Kevin Strickland had 14 for the Blue Devils to take the honors there. So now in the East at the Meadowlands, it looks like this. Duke is advanced on now to the East Regional Final, and the Blue Devils will take on the winner of the Temple-Richmond game, which is just about ready to tip at the Meadowlands in New Jersey. And, of course, the Duke-Temple-Richmond winner, that game will take place on Saturday afternoon. Now, next, all of you will be seeing the start of Richmond and Temple from the Meadowlands. Many will later leave that game in about a half an hour for the start of Louisville and Oklahoma. But we'll take you out to the Meadowlands, Tim Brandt and Bill Raftery for the start of Richmond and the top seed in the East, Temple, as we continue on the road to the Final Four right after this.
New Jersey for Game 2 of our East Regional doubleheader. It's the surprising Spiders of Richmond against the top-ranked Temple Owls. And let's show you how the 2 teams got here, because Duke has already advanced with a 1-point win over Rhode Island, and we'll play the winner of this game for a ticket to...
No hurry. Good poise. Overload now.
Rodney Rice for 3.
The only thing with that, there's no weak side rebound if he doesn't make it.
Temple lead is 4.
Now Richmond staying back. Tarrant looking for, if it's a miss, everybody to rebound.
Now the Spiders match up man.
And they better check out Tim Perry on a miss.
Atkinson's yelling to Tarrant that there's a mismatch. Now they switch up. He was on Breezewood. This is Macon.
Oh, Major League.
That'll do it for the first half. So that's the end of the first half with a score. Temple 32, Richmond 26. CBS Sports coverage of this tournament will continue after this message and a word from your local stations.
Has scored 10 points, and the top seed in the East, Temple, is up 6 over Richmond at halftime. Welcome from across the Hudson here in New York. Jim Nance with James Brown at halftime. Temple only shooting 39%, so really the Richmond Spiders still right there within striking distance, so Coach Dick Turan has to be somewhat happy. Now, the winner of this game between Temple and Richmond will be taking on Duke for the East Regional Championship Saturday, James.
By no stretch of the imagination was it a cakewalk for Duke, Jim. As a matter of fact, Rhode Island showed extremely well. Duke had to hold on to eke out a 1-point victory, 73-72. Strong inside scoring by Duke down the stretch. Danny Ferry, 17 points, 12 rebounds. Kevin Strickland with 14 helped Duke to the victory there. In the Southeast Region semifinal, it was Villanova with the upset win by 6 over Kentucky, 80-74. Villanova perfect from the free throw line, 17-17, and good backcourt play helped them in that contest there. Now, it was expected to be a track meet down in Birmingham, Alabama. Indeed, it has been that butt of turnover play game. Oklahoma is trailing by 1 to Louisville in the first half there. Let's check in on that game with our announcers, Dick Stockton and Billy Cunningham.
Spencer's foul. We want to welcome the viewers who have been watching the Temple-Richmond matchup at East Rutherford, New Jersey. We're at the Jefferson Civic Center in Birmingham. Dick Stockton and Billy Cunningham are in the Southeast Regional second game. It's been a pressure game, but a load of turnovers on both sides in this game, and Louisville has been able to handle the full court press by Oklahoma.
Too many, both teams playing a little sloppy, a little out of control at times. I just wonder if it is the pressure of playing, getting to the final 16.
Mike Abram, quickly picked up. Keith Williams in the lane. Felton Spencer misses a tip. Loses it now to Blaylock. Mookie Blaylock picked up by Williams defensively. Crowd thought he turned it over. Grace for 3. And Ricky Grace finally gets on the scoreboard with a 3-point basket. And it gives Oklahoma its biggest lead of this first half. Ellison to Abram. 2-on-1. Felton Spencer. And he draws the foul. Stacey King runs away from the pack, and he was hit with his first personal there.
I was very close to getting a technical foul as well with that display.
Oklahoma, look at the shooting, 73% to 61. Louisville has had the edge on the fast break, which is a big surprise after what was expected in this game.
Big surprise, but when you do play against a team that goes full court trap, if you don't attack the basket when you get that advantage, across half court, then you're playing right into their hands, and Louisville's going right after them.
Mike Abram leaves the ball game, is replaced by LeBradford Smith, who picked up 2 fouls. Here's Felton Spencer.
That was a kind bounce.
64% free throw shooter, and if he got more of those, he'd be up in the 80s. Oh, didn't happen a second time.
He tried the same shot.
Grant picked up the loose ball. Now Grace with 9 minutes and 40 seconds remaining in the first half. Mullins. Stacey,
as well as his physical talents.
Well, that's been a spectacular job that Lute Olson has done down there at Arizona. I think anytime you can take a team that is down as far as they were and turn it around as quickly as he's done, and now on the verge of going to the Final Four.
Yet not only from a standpoint of the quality team, but everything is picked up. They sell out every game.
Also number 33, Joe Turner.
He's got great TV and radio exposure down there. Just a first-class operation.
This is real big for Pac-10 basketball.
It's been a long time. What, 1980 when UCLA went to the Final Four? It's the farthest any Pac-10 team has gone.
Yeah, and then I think Washington went into a regional once in the Midwest. That was eliminated, I recall. That was back in about 84, though, I think. That was when they had Shrimp and Velp on that team.
What do we have? A call here, an invisible call.
Clogged whistle.
That's right.
He swallowed the whistle with 21 seconds to go.
Good motions, though.
Well, now that you've had Purdue eliminated, I'm not going to let you get out of here with your new favorite.
The new favorite? Boy, I don't know. I do not know. You're Oklahoman, huh?
Yeah, I'll go Oklahoma, but I'm I'm as scared as you are.
I am too. I have a night to reflect. You need a night to reflect. I'm going to back out.
Sunday, I'll ask.
All right. Then I only have to, then I can
That's
only
right.
be
You
wrong
can narrow
3
the
ways.
field. Well, I guess that Ted Shaker and the boys back in New York have had a big night, huh? Switching around. Got a big one out of Kansas State and Purdue.
On number 20, Jeff Lowe. That's his 3rd personal foul.
One of the things about this team, really, he wants another rap video.
It's a little
an intentional foul. Ken Lawson
Southern Chow style.
You noticed in the pregame warm-up, you said to me, Brent, this team's got a little of that UCLA arrogance.
Yeah, they remind you warming up. Like UCLA always used to come out on the court. I'm talking about during the John Wooden years, and you just had a feeling that they knew they were going to win the ball game, and it wasn't an arrogance. It was just a confidence level, a relaxed confidence. And they possess a lot of the same things. And I'm not going to say they're UCLA, but they stack that way.
Yeah, I think Kareem could probably make this team. It's great hustle there by a heck of a volleyball player. Bushler, number 35. 1992, they tell me he might be on the United States Olympic volleyball team. UCLA wanted him too.
Look at this, huh?
Harvey Mason at the buzzer hits a three. They run to 99-79 over Iowa.
Arizona moves on to the regional final, where they'll take on the Tar Heels of North Carolina.
I'm Brent Musburger with Billy Packer, and we're going to be sending you to Jim Nance along the network here in just a moment.
The Chevy MVPs from that contest, B.J. Armstrong for the Hawkeyes and Sean Elliott with 27 points for Arizona as the Wildcats continue to impress and advance on now into the round of 8. One thing we're sure of, we're going to have a team from either Kansas or Kansas State going to Kansas City.
No question about that. I like the fact that each of those teams, Kansas State and Kansas, followed the lead of their respective stars. In the case of Kansas State, it was Mitch Richmond, of course, and Danny Manning for Kansas. Let me underscore your point about the big evening for the Big 8. Kansas, behind the 38 points of Danny Manning, knocked off Vanderbilt 77-64. They, of course, will meet Kansas State now in the Midwest Regional Final. That's because Kansas State pulled the upset of the evening, knocking off Purdue 73-70. Big evening for Mitch Richmond, 27 points, 11 rebounds. Meanwhile, out in the West Regional Final, semifinal action that is, it was North Carolina on top of Michigan 78-69. J.R. Reed 18 points, Scott Williams 16 there. It's going to be an interesting matchup between North Carolina and Arizona. I think two extremely well-coached teams.
It'll be a great game. So the ingredients in the Final 8, 3 Big 8, 2 ACC, 1 Atlantic 10, 1 Big East, and 1 from the Pac-10. We'll come back and set the stage for tomorrow's lineup on CBS when we continue right after this. Busy sports day tomorrow here on CBS. It starts at noon Eastern with coverage of the World Figure Skating Championships. Then at 1:30 we have the road to the Final Four. And at 1:50 we'll tip off the coverage of Duke against Temple, the East Regional Championship. And that'll be followed by Villanova against Oklahoma for the Southeast Regional Championship. Well, it's been another busy night, and we see Purdue go down to defeat tonight, the top seed there in the Midwest. For James Brown, I'm Jim Nance. We'll see you tomorrow as we start to find out for sure who's going to Kansas City.
Jumps out to its first lead of the night. Will Scott hits 17 of 25 three-pointers in the NCAAs, and K-State leads at 46-44. Lon Kruger's team went inside to Mitch Richmond, the leaner, got the basket, and K-State led it by 9. Gene Cady praying, his family praying to the hoop god. It would not be answered. As Everett Stevens has the ball go off of his foot, yes, Gene, it's over for you. As Purdue loses to Kansas State by the final of 73-70. Not bad for a team that lost to Purdue by 29 earlier in the year.
Coach called a timeout, and we regrouped. You know, we told everyone, got together and said that we got to fight. And we came back and, you know, we made it a game. And right then and there, we knew that we could play with them.
I'm as proud of this group of young men right now as you can possibly be. They get down 10-0, you know, to perhaps, you know, one of the best two teams in the country, and my feelings about that haven't changed. And they maintain their poise, and they stick together, and they continue to believe in one another.
Even though we had a great season, it's a team that was just better than us tonight, and they played and competed very hard, and they played great. They're a very fine basketball team.
Prize teams battled in the nightcap. Kansas and Vanderbilt. Scooter Berry will clear the rebound for Kansas, the son of Rick Berry. And he gets it out, very smart player, because he got it to Danny Manning. 25 of his 38 points came in the first half. C.M. Newton said, see him, stop him. Inside, Danny Manning, but they couldn't. Manning with his slam, 38 points. There's his father, an assistant with Kansas, and like father, like son. His father, a former ABA player, Danny's going to the NBA, though, after this year, and Kansas is moving on. They win it by the final of 77-64. A big, big night for Danny Manning. Who says all for one, or who says one for all can't beat all for one? The Western Regional region is arguably the toughest of the four. In fact, Arizona's Lute Olson said the teams in this regional semifinals in Seattle were good enough to make up a Final Four that would rival any combination in the country. And it was Michigan and North Carolina. Under 30 seconds to go in the first half, it is Rumeal Robinson to Glenn Rice for the slam, and North Carolina led it by 1. Bill Frieder's team, though, couldn't stop J.R. Reed. J.R. triple-teamed and still gets the shot off. North Carolina went up by 6 in the second half. But then Michigan battled back. Rumeal Robinson, like Patrick Ewing from Boston, like Patrick Ewing from Jamaica, like Patrick Ewing, knows how to finish off a fast break. North Carolina led it by 1, but the Tar Heels prevailed. It is King Rice, one of the top freshman guards, point guards in the country, with a steal, goes in for the layup. North Carolina led it by 8. They went on to win it by the final of 78-69. And for the 4th time in North Carolina's last 6 years, they're going to the Final 8.
We're delighted with the victory, and I think that's obvious. We tried very hard, and our team showed a lot of competitiveness and the ability to hang in there when things didn't always look good.
Arizona met Iowa in the nightcap. Arizona turned Iowa's world upside down, then kissed their hopes goodbye because Arizona just great teamwork. Steve Kerr, one of his 8 assists, this one to Joe Turner, and they led it by 16. Sean Elliott had 25 points, hits the inside and outside shot for Lute Olson's team. Lute Olson, who used to coach at Iowa, now coaching at Arizona, and now moving on as Arizona wins it by the final of 99-79. The Wildcats' average margin of victory in the NCAA tournament is 29 points.
We came out in the second half just a little bit more aggressive, and we knew we had them down in the first half. They just came back a little bit on us. But in the second half, we were more determined, and when we got them down, we just kicked them, and we kept kicking them, and next thing you know, they were out of it.
Joining us now to lend his expertise about the Final 8 teams, the head coach of Georgia Tech, Bobby Cremins. First of all, let's look at the Western Regional. You've got North Carolina, a team you played a couple of times this year. North Carolina playing Arizona. What does North Carolina do to beat Arizona? Or what does Arizona do to beat North Carolina?
Well, Dan, I thought the Michigan game was going to be a great test for North Carolina, and they came through beautifully, and J.R. Reed really rose to the occasion. North Carolina is playing very well. I think the key game North Carolina had was against Loyola. I think that just gave them a new level of confidence, and it really boosted their game. But what scares me is what you just mentioned, that margin of victory for Arizona. They are playing unreal basketball. I was Lute's assistant in the World Games in Spain a couple of years ago. I'll never forget Steve Kerr when his knee exploded, Dan. But he's back, and you got to favor Arizona. But I'll be pulling for the ACC, even though my good friend Lute Olson's coach for Arizona. And I love Steve Kerr and Sean Elliott.
Let's look at the Midwest Regional. As you've got Kansas and Kansas State meeting for the 4th time this season, so there's not going to be any surprises there. This is Sunday afternoon in the Silverdome. These two teams, probably the worst college football teams, but nobody's laughing at them now as they've gone to the Final 8. Danny Manning, we talked about this before we went on. I think he's the player of the year. He's carried this team, and Larry Brown has done a great job. Can Kansas beat Kansas State?
Oh, definitely. I think Kansas emotionally has the edge because Kansas State defeated them pretty soundly in the Big 8 tournament. But what a job Lon Kruger's done. I know the feeling, Gene Cady. It's a sick feeling when you get upset like that. But those Kansas State players were magnificent. I think Kansas has been to the Final Four. I'm going to pick Kansas in a real close game simply because of Danny, but it's going to be a real tight one. I love the way Kansas is playing defense right now.
What about North Carolina and Arizona? I didn't get your pick on that one.
Well, if I was, I'd have to favor Arizona, but in my heart, I've got to pull for the ACC. But Arizona's playing magnificent basketball right now.
All right. Bobby Cremins, we will be back to talk to you a little bit more. When NCAA Preview returns, we will take a long look at the Southeast and Eastern regionals. But first, here are the scores from the NIT and the NCAA Women's Tournament.
Try to harness and direct a group of people toward one common goal. It's very difficult if you allow them to be equal. So we just don't have that.
Temple's John Janey
every inch the boss, but he knows it's his kids who have executed almost flawlessly all tournament. And on the other side, Duke coach Mike Krzyzewski, who says this is a game where he must put his ego aside.
And I think you have to have confidence in your system. The players are comfortable in it. They've played over 30 games. Let them play.
The matchup's punctuated by defense. Duke will play straight up, smothering man-to-man, take away the lanes, and restrict Temple's options. A critical matchup is outside. Can the Blue Devils' quick and relentless Billy King neutralize Temple's savvy, confident, dead-eye shooting freshman guard Mark Macon? Can Duke's other guard, Quinn Snyder, throttle Temple's splendid point man Howard Evans? And is Evans over his back problem? The Owls also have Mike Breeswick, maybe the best three-point bomber in the land when he gets on a roll, while Duke will try an answer with shooting guard Kevin Strickland. But not to be forgotten is the battle inside. Temple's 1-2 punch of intimidating Tim Perry and center Ramon Rivas.
Both of them are very good players. Rivas sets up a lot of things, I think, for his teammates, and Perry is just explosive inside.
Perry's a critical component defensively, on the boards, but just as vitally because of his passing excellence and shooting. The teams agree on one point, though. This game is going to be a struggle, and most people feel it could be a classic.
I'm Fred Hickman with the Southeast Regional in Birmingham, and this one's going to be fun. Oklahoma, fast, loose, high scoring, recording 100 points or more 20 times so far during the Sooners' 33-3 campaign.
This Oklahoma team is as good a basketball team as I've ever seen. I really mean that.
Villanova can run, but prefers to operate at 2 speeds, slow and slower, milking that 45-second clock on each possession.
Do you see anybody they compare to?
No, they run and slow the ball down.
Not really. No, we decided there's nobody in our league that they compare to.
In order for Villanova to win, the Wildcats will have to be chameleon-like on defense.
We can't play a run-and-chuck type of game with them. We have to confuse them a little bit with some defenses.
You can't trick us because we're not paying attention.
The primary weaponry for Oklahoma is a tough inside attack. Stacey King and Harvey Grant combined for 43 points per game. But to keep these big guys free to move about, Oklahoma can fire the triple.
They hit threes last night from the NBA threes.
Villanova's top scorers are Doug West and Mark Plansky, but everybody gets into the scoring act for Rowley. Oh, and Nova seems to have something else working for it. Luck.
It's starting to happen. I think you just get that feeling that, you know, it's bigger than all of us.
But in the final analysis, it all boils down to the 3 musts as to who's going to make the trip from Birmingham to Kansas City.
Whoever shoots the ball the best, whoever rebounds the ball the best, and who has the fewest turnovers got a great chance to win.
Fred Hickman, CNN Sports.
So on Saturday, Duke meets Temple, followed by Oklahoma and Villanova. On Sunday, Kansas and Kansas State in the opener, to be followed by Arizona and North Carolina. CBS's coverage on both days begins at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Back with us to take a look and bet his reputation on the East and Southeast Regional, the head coach of the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, Bobby Cremins. The finals of the East, you got Temple against Duke, two of the best defensive teams in the country.
Right. Dan, I'd have to say the favorite would be Temple. I'm going to be an ACC fan and pull for Duke, of course, but I love the job that John Chaney has done, taking Temple to #1 in the country. Mike Krzyzewski is outstanding, and Danny Ferry, it's going to be a great matchup.
Let me ask you about Mark Macon, everybody's freshman of the year, but he only shoots 45% from the field. So is there a chance if he's off, Duke playing great defense, Billy King will probably guard him, is there a chance that that could really hamper Temple's game plan?
It hasn't seemed to, Dan. Mark has missed a lot of shots, but Temple continues to win easily. And let's think the other way. What happens if he shoots about 60%? I feel like they know their role so well that they can withstand Mark Macon not shooting well.
Let's talk about the finals of the Southeast, Oklahoma and Villanova. Contrasting styles, run and gun with Oklahoma, but they do play great defense, and Villanova is going to try to slow it down against them.
Well, Rolly Massimino, what can you say? It's another incredible coaching performance, but Oklahoma reminds me a lot of Nevada, Las Vegas last year. And like Nevada, Las Vegas, they did not get credit for their defense. Harvey Grant used to be in our league with Clemson, and he is truly outstanding. Stacey King, what a great front line. And, you know, they've been there before, and Billy Tubbs really wants to go to the Final Four. So you got to favor Oklahoma. But, you know, I just take nothing away from Rolly Massimino and that Villanova team.
So you're taking Oklahoma to win and Temple?
Oh, okay, yeah. I'll just.
Well, I don't want to twist your arm here.
I'd rather be coaching than sitting here talking about this, so I'll just be a fan and watch.
All right, Coach, you're going out recruiting. We wish you luck. Bring home a big man. I know you're out shopping for that.
Well, I'd like to get back in the NCAA again, and instead of being here, being there.
All right, thank you. Bobby Cremins, coach of the Georgia Tech.
Different things. Physical ability, obviously, you can't take a 5'2" guy that can't jump and say you're going to be a Pac-10 center, but if he has physical ability, if he has mental ability to do the job in the classroom and to do the job of absorbing what we want them to absorb, then the third critical area is what kind of character. Is he coachable? Is he a good kid? Is he going to respond in the way we'd like to have our players respond, off the court as well as on the court?
Your team has relatively breezed through your schedule, the Pac-10 season. Now you're gearing up for the NCAA tournament. How do you keep the team motivated?
I think that's an ongoing thing that you go through all year long. You know, in December, people were saying, you know, the various members of the media, aren't you concerned about how well they're playing? So I said, should I go out and tell them don't play so well, right? I think the key is that you work to play as well as you can play all the time, and then you get better and better and better by having that kind of attitude.
Some people have said with the seasonal success that you've had that maybe the team might be a little bit flat coming into the tournament.
Yeah, we've heard it all, you know. I mean, when you've won the number of games these guys have won, after every ball game in the press conference, why somebody will try to find something. Are you worried about your bench didn't score tonight? Yeah, I'm worried about that. Now, does that make you feel better? I'm worried about that. You got out-rebounded by one. Geez, we better start worrying about that, you know. It's nice when you have to look around for things to worry about. I'm not worried about, I've always felt worrying is like sitting in a rocking chair, you know. It keeps you really occupied, but you don't get anywhere with it. So we don't get involved with worrying. We just try to look at the positive things and the things that we can do to be better.
Critics have also said that the power in college basketball has shifted all the way to the East and away from the West. How do you respond to that?
Well, first of all, we know they're Easterners when they say that, so, but I don't worry about that. What we have to do is we have to do our talking on the floor, and I said that back a 3 years ago here, and maybe some of the other coaches didn't like it. I said, we got to stop talking and start doing, you know. We don't have to defend our position right now. I mean, okay, we played on the floor. You say we're not tough. Hey, we beat Syracuse. Hey, we're not tough. We beat Michigan. We beat Iowa at Iowa. We beat Duke at our place. We beat Illinois. So, you know, we don't need to defend. All we have to do is, okay, here's what we've done. Now you go ahead and determine whether we can play with anybody or not.
You've had several head coaching jobs, and you've had the fortune of never being fired from one of them. How do you decide as a coach when it's time to settle down and stay with a program for the remainder of your career?
We have 5 children. We have 4 of them living in Tucson. We have 6 grandkids, all within 5 minutes of us. So I don't see any reason for us to not feel settled as long as the people there feel that we're doing the job they want done. I would not envision moving on. I think it's our spot, but like I say, you can't say never in coaching either.
I'm Larry Brown, coach of the Kansas Jayhawks.
And finally, our third contestant, who also is playing for that big trip to Kansas City.
I'm Lon Kruger, basketball coach at Kansas State University.
Well, thanks, gentlemen, but enough socializing here. It's time to play our game, and here's our first puzzle. Now, it's a phrase, and it's also a title. So, contestant number 1, let's give the wheel a spin. $1,500.
I'd like an R, please.
And there are 2 R's. Nice going. Okay, Coach, spin again. 900.
Can I have an F, please?
And yeah, there are 2 F's. Boy, when you're hot, Coach. Okay, spin it again. Oh, sorry. All right, Coach, the door to Kansas City is wide open, so give it a spin. $250.
Can I have a D, please?
Yes, there is a D. Okay, spin it again.
I'd really like to buy a vowel. Can I have an O?
Well, good news. There are 3 O's in this puzzle, Coach.
All right, I've got it. It's the road to the Final Four.
Hey, that's right. Road to the Final Four, the NCAA National College Basketball Championship.
CBS Sports coverage of the Road to the Final Four is sponsored by the new Audi 90. It's everything you hoped driving would be. And by Sheraton, the hospitality people of ITT.
Hello again, everyone. Jim Nance along with James Brown. And first off, our thanks to Pat Vanna and the gang from Wheel of Fortune for helping us on the road to the Final Four. Today, we're going to ticket our first 2 teams for Kansas City, and we're going to start with regional final doubleheader with Duke of the ACC against top-ranked Temple. Then you're going to see explosive Oklahoma of the Big 8 square off against Rolling Massimino's surprising Villanova Wildcats.
All right, Jim, but coming up first in our pregame show, we'll look back at a stunning evening last night for the state of Kansas. And Gary Paul Gates will have a modern-day version of the Philadelphia story. But right now, as we approach game time at the Meadowlands, let's check in live with Tim Brandt and Bill Raftery.
All right, James Brown, and welcome to the Meadowlands Arena in East Rutherford, New Jersey for the Championship of the East between Duke and Temple. And hello again, everybody. I'm Tim Brandt along with Bill Raftery, and we've got a guest, the Temple tactician.
Well, we could use some help, Timmy, but you ate a lot of hot dogs and put too much weight on.
No, don't say that.
And you took the plate from your wife.
No, don't. See, you guys got me in trouble. I didn't know what you had said about the hot dogs. And I came home, and she looked at me and she said, "You're eating those hot dogs with the cholesterol and all the triglycerides in it." And I was in trouble all night. So don't say anything.
Like the game itself. Frieswick threw a bad pass. John got all over him, and you were upset.
Yes, because he knows better than that. He knows better than to try a pass like that. So we took him over to the psychiatrist, had him take an exam. He's all right.
Analyze the game for us as you see it.
I think it's going to be a clean, smooth slice made by Temple and good surgery, and we'll be ready for Kansas City.
Hope you're smiling.
Huh? I'm smiling now. But I made a wager with a guy who said that if Duke wins, I'll wear their T-shirt on the Cosby Show, and I will.
Terrific.
But I wish everybody good luck.
Dr. Cosby, Bill Rafter, and Jim Nance, we're just about set. It's Duke against Temple, the 2 top seeds in the East. Jimmy?
All right, tip-off about 20 minutes away. Now we know where Raftery gets all of his one-liners from.
Smart man.
He's going to want his own primetime show next. We're going to continue on the road to the Final Four on CBS in just a moment.
Final action in Pontiac and Seattle last night. We saw the road to the Final Four take some unexpected turns, especially for 2 teams from Kansas. Jayhawks center Danny Manning was a one-man wrecking crew last night. He started things off outside with this 3-pointer from the top of the key. He was just as effective on the inside with the high percentage shot. And then 2 more of the conventional variety en route to a 38-point performance. Kansas celebrates the All-Kansas Regional.
Our team did a great job of staying wide, getting good spacing, and opening things up on the inside for me. And I was very fortunate in the first half that all my shots were dropping. In the second half, like Coach said, I lost my legs and I couldn't find a jumper.
Kansas State coach Lon Kruger continues the clean sweep for the state of Kansas.
A 3-pointer could tie it. Time has expired. Now, if you tell me you got to go scout Kansas, I'm not going to believe you.
Well, I think we know each other pretty well. They're awfully good, and they're playing very, very well right now. And, you know, Larry does a great job. We got our hands full. They probably have the emotional edge now because we beat them last time.
In the West, North Carolina cheerleaders had a lot to shout about last night. J.R. Reed was too much on the inside despite a horde of defenders. Dean Smith liked what he saw, as well as teammate Scott Williams playing a good support role, helping Carolina roll by 9. And Dean Smith advances to the regional finals where the Tar Heels will meet Arizona. Arizona dismantled Iowa last night with good team play. McMillan shot is off, but Sean Elliott is on the inside for the rebound and the slam and the win.
It's going to be a heck of a basketball game, I think. But our guys haven't backed off anybody all year long, so we're looking forward to playing the Tar Heels on Sunday.
By the way, Kansas and Kansas State do know each other pretty well. They played 3 times during the regular college basketball season, and Kansas State won 2 of those games by an average of 13 points, Jim.
You know, James, with Kansas and Kansas State meeting tomorrow, it of course means we'll have essentially a home team playing at Kemper Arena. Plus, of course, the Big 8 team will be there as well. Well, there are 3 Big 8 teams in the Final 8, with Oklahoma, of course, taking on Villanova later today. All right, when we come back, we'll look in on the man with the look, John Chaney of Temple, as the road to the Final 4 continues after this. Philadelphia. And Gary Paul Gates has the story of this urban hotbed of hoops and the man who's never lost his shooting eye.
Philadelphia is a city rich in tradition and larger-than-life monuments. The founding father, known here as Billy Penn, clearly has the best view in town. Philadelphia also has had its share of larger-than-life athletes.
Sometimes they even try to blend the two cultures. Here's a tribute of sorts to the city's fictional hero, Rocky 7, or whatever number he's up to now. But there's nothing make-believe about Philadelphia's strong tradition in college basketball. And there, the championship teams don't just come from one school.
3 years ago, it was Villanova. This season, the team to beat is Temple. Without question, the basketball roots run deep in Philadelphia.
I would have to say that asphalt has a lot to do with it. The fact of the matter is that many of the youngsters come from poor backgrounds, enclosed quarters, not the suburban kind of situation.
Chaney himself learned the game on the mean streets of this city, and growing up here was not easy.
I just feel like I've come out of the earth, from the mud, so to speak.
John was the kind of guy that even when it snowed, he would go over and shovel the snow off the basketball court and practice. And when other people were out thinking about girls and things like that, John was thinking about basketball.
Chaney's boyhood friend is now principal of Benjamin Franklin High School, where John played basketball just a few blocks from Temple. He and Tom Gola were the best players of their time in Philadelphia. Gola went on to star at LaSalle, leading the Explorers to 2 national championships.
Most of the fellows in my day stayed at home. If you look at our 1952 NIT championship team, every fellow who was on the team was a graduate of either the public league in Philadelphia or the Catholic league in Philadelphia, which says something for, you know, the caliber of basketball at the high school level.
John Chaney wanted to stay at home, too. His dream was to play for Temple, but he discovered that big-time college basketball was within an exclusive club dominated by white players. It wasn't until he was 50 years old that he finally made it to Temple, and then as head coach. But he had perfected a few tricks along the way.
I just try to put a hex on him. That comes from my mom and my grandma. The one-eyed jack stare is one that I look at you for about 2 minutes, and sometimes the guys don't look back, but they know I'm looking at him.
So far, Chaney has been able to stare the Owls into the regional finals, and Temple's most famous alumnus has been on hand for most of the action.
I have to be there.
Why is
my
that?
wife, because my wife let me have the family playing.
And if Temple does win it all, he'll fly home to exchange smiles with another Billy, the stately Mr. Penn. And it will be brotherly love time all over again. For CBS Sports, I'm Gary Paul Gates.
All right, James, you know, Duke played in the championship game 2 years ago, but it's been 30 years since Temple was in the Final Four. How do you see this one today?
Both teams are excellent defensively. They each have a great offensive player in Danny Ferry and, of course, Mark Macon. I think Duke's going to have the matchup problems on the inside.
All right, James, the first team going to Kansas City will come from the Meadowlands. Tim Brandt and Bill Raftery will have the call after this word from your...
What a way to start a championship game.
He and Macon have the green lights.
Now the matchup zone by the Owls. The kick out to King.
I believe Danny Ferry's going to have to score well for Duke.
Put it on the floor, has it taken away, gets it back.
They got to walk. He took advantage, Tim. You can grab the ball and stay put on the ground, but you can't roll over and get the advantage.
Temple averages under 10 turnovers a game, and they will force the opponent into turnovers. That's number 1.
They value the ball. They use the post slow for both Frieswick and Macon. Going to need help on the dribble now. Strickland.
This is Macon against Strickland. He fires way short. Air ball. ball's arm hit by Strickland. Good no call.
Good cut by Bricky.
Look at Bricky on the baseline. He gets blocked by Perry. And a foul on Breezewick.
Strong effort inside. You notice Danny Perry, excellent passer at 6'9", sees thing, recognized a good cut by Bricky, but Tim Perry, almost 4 blocks a game, seldom foul, stays on the floor, got it clean the first time, and of course the ensuing struggle.
Well, look at Mike Krzyzewski. In 8 years at Duke has established one of the true quality programs.
First 2 years he was calling me for help though, Tim. Not playing too well. He was really struggling. 10-11 wins, but they had confidence in him and he's come through.
Hey, I was impressed. He said one of the greatest games he's ever seen. The two of you coached against each other.
Well, he wasn't that smart when he was younger.
Snyder for 3. Air ball.
Well, he's going to have to nail him. Mike Krzyzewski at the meeting said they need some outside shooting. Danny Perry struggling. Quinn Snyder, a better shooter than that.
Duke 0 for 3 from the field.
Macon really uses the post.
King and Macon matched up again.
Great position.
This is Evans, drops it inside. Perry with the turnaround. The rebound, Strickland.
Ribas doesn't have the lateral motion for rebounds that some of the Duke kids have.
Patience is going to be a key for Duke.
Also reloading. Looking at the set, it doesn't work, bring it back out.
Snyder had the shot, didn't take it. This is Perry. Temple ball.
Danny has been struggling with the jumper. An intense Mike Krzyzewski. He's hoping that Danny can start perking.
That tells the story early on. They're working Perry.
Good turnaround shot. Move. He's tough on the block. They've got to deny the ball.
And Perry has 4 block shots. But the Owls' 10-point lead has been trimmed to 3 at halftime in the East Regional Final at the Meadowlands. Welcome back to New York. Jim Nance along with James Brown across the Hudson. And so far in this ball game has really all the makings of a rough day for Mark Macon, as he has 4 out of 14 from the floor, including 5 air balls. But Temple is leading by 3 over Duke. Now, coming up later today here on CBS, you'll see the Southeast Regional Final between Villanova and the top seed there, Oklahoma. Dick Stockton and Billy Cunningham are our broadcasters, and here's a preview.
And this was the scene 3 years ago when the Villanova Wildcats scored perhaps the most dramatic upset to win the NCAA championship, beating Georgetown in a game they're still talking about. And this is the Jefferson Civic Center here in Birmingham, Alabama. And this was the site where Villanova won the Southeast Regional 3 years ago to go to the Final Four. And the site this afternoon of the Southeast Regional Final this time, and Villanova is in it. Hello again, everyone. Dick Stockton with Bill Cunningham. And, of course, Villanova hopes to smell the flowers again in Kansas City. But, Bill, to get there, they're going to have to beat one of the most exciting teams in the country, Oklahoma.
They will, and they're going to have to control the tempo. It's no secret about this ball game. The coaches have talked about it. Villanova must control it. Use that 45-second clock up as much as they possibly can. And, of course, Oklahoma is going to pick them up. Full court defensive pressure and try to create an up-tempo game.
It is a stark, dramatic contrast in styles. And when Villanova gives up 100, they just don't win.
It's people that score, I mean, when they score 100 or more, they usually win or have won. They've only lost 3 games. So we're going to have to try this. Slow the pace down somehow.
See, they won't, you can't trick us because we're not paying attention. And we don't have to know what you're doing because we really don't care. We're going to do what we're doing. And so we can't be tricked. We're not smart enough.
Some people feel that Billy Tubbs sounds just like actor Jack Nicholson. And they feel that Rolly Massimino looks just like actor Danny DeVito. You be the judge. In any event, James Brown, 2 of these gentlemen will be facing each other in the Southeast Regional coming up shortly.
All right, Dick, you know, I can really relate to those 2 coaches because can you believe it, Jimmy? People actually think that I look like Jim Brown, the football player.
You mean you're not?
As if you
no individual who better captures the full spectrum of life's passions than one Roland V. Massimino, the man whose joy we enjoy sharing.
That's it. Villanova has done it.
The year was 1985, and Villanova stunned the basketball world. The nation took this underdog team to heart, but the man who stole the show was a charismatic coach who never held back his feelings.
I think it's part of my cultural makeup, quite frankly. I'm Italian. When you're Italian, you have to be emotional. I'm a very emotional person.
3 years later, Roley still rants and raves, but this godfather claims he's in control.
It's reputation. People tell me, you know, how can you throw off your coat and open your tie? I haven't done that, including the whole 1985 road to Lexington. Take off my coat once. I mean, I'm starting to wear good clothes now, so I can't afford to do that.
Well, if it's true that clothes make the man, then Roley's dressed for success.
I got a special shirt from Perry Como that was lengthened maybe about 25 inches, so it wouldn't come out of my pants.
At 53, his stock is higher than ever. Still, he keeps someone around to monitor his ticker.
I have my cardiologist on the bench. He's been on my bench 2 or 3 times, and he says, I'm fine. Just do what you have to do, and after the season, we'll think about, maybe I might die in between, but we'll do what we have to do.
But relax, never. His players wouldn't stand for it.
He would not be an effective coach if he just sat there and calmly applauded or calmly disagreed.
Last week in the Wildcats' upset of Illinois, Coach Mass got so carried away he could hardly restrain himself. But there was still 1 second left on the clock.
We've always seemed to have one guy that was responsible for making sure that he didn't go out in the court.
No, that's all. You guys made that up, that designated Raleigh Hall. No, absolutely not.
No one had to hold Roley back on Thursday night, and he was as animated as ever. The Cats mauled Kentucky and advanced into today's showdown with Oklahoma in the last stop on the road to the Final Four. Will Villanova make a Cinderella encore? Nobody knows, but one thing you can count on is that Roley will be there to give it every last ounce of body English. You know, one other thing about Roley's tightly knit teams, 47 of 47 senior players have graduated with their degrees, and I think, James, the day that they write the book on how to engineer a college basketball upset, Chapter 1 should be by Roley Massimino. Can he do it today, though, against Oklahoma?
They touch the floor now. That's Duke's signal that they're ready. Three-pointer.
So Dowdell cuts the lead to 8. Strickland again, close to a back violation.
If they could have come up with one there, they will kill some clock now.
Bricky gives the touch pass back to Strickland.
Watch for the intentional foul if they can't get it right away. They just got to give one any place.
John Chaney is pleading for the foul. Foul him, he says.
Post time.
35 seconds remain.
Not able to get out there. They're going to give 2. No question, John was doing the right thing. Players not able to react. Imploring Jerome Dowdell. Get out on him and get one. Coach Smith over there assisting. Well, they're happy for him. Great part of this terrific year. ACC championship. And the guy who started at Army going back to the Final Four.
40-year-old Chicago native. Went to the U.S. Military Academy, coached there before moving on to Duke. Snyder can't convert. Temple's got to push it quickly. They're sure they have all day.
Yeah, they sure do. Get on the board.
Macon for 3. Air ball. Outlet pass. Strickland. It's over.
Exclamation point, huh?
Pretty play. Duke is going to Kansas City. Was Strickland's basket, the slam dunk, the exclamation point. Oh! And Coach K knew he had a ticket to Kansas City. The number 2 seed Duke wins by 10. And the Blue Devils become the first team to advance to the Final Four. As they cut down the nets in celebration. And Duke heads for Kansas City. We'll head back to New York. And Jim Nance. Jim?
Duke has done it. The Blue Devils were down by as many as 10 points in the first half before coming on, pouring it on in the second half for that 63-53 victory. The Chevy MVPs. How about Billy King with that phenomenal defensive job? And King shutting down Mark Macon. 6 for 28 from the floor for Macon, as King, again, was just all over him on defense. Tim Perry for Temple, and we'll continue. Villanova and Oklahoma still to come. The Southeast Regional Final as we continue on
the Meadowlands in East Rutherford, New Jersey, and as the Duke Blue Devils put down the net, they've won a ticket to Kansas City, the first team to make the Final Four. Mike Krzyzewski, what a win. You were down by 10. You came back strong.
We really played outstanding defense. Billy King's defense on Macon, and then Strickland on Breeswick, and just good team defense. We never gave them open shots. And then I thought in the second half, we played such possession basketball, and we took it down to the end of the clocks, and Ferry hit shots. And we played very much like a veteran team to beat the most veteran team we've played all year, and a team that I didn't know if we had a chance to beat, but we did.
We saw you just go over moments ago and meet your family, and here it is.
Well, my family's really close and involved, and my wife's great. And two of my daughters for the game, they weren't here Thursday, and my 6-year-old Jamie's back at home. So we're together a lot with this team. It's our profession. You know, we're very close as a family.
Mike, you talked about the defense. That man right there with Bill Raftery,
Billy King,
29%, Billy.
Great job. And I asked the coach individually, is there anybody better than he ever coached one-on-one defensively? He said no. Great job today.
Thank you. I have to give some credit to Macon and the Temple team. They're a great team. And, you know, some of their shots missed. He got past me, and Forts had some help behind me. You know, the big guy, Danny, and Quinn Snyder sometimes switch over and help. But the main thing is, you know, they missed some easy shots, and I can't take all the credit.
I know why you're communications major now, but Danny Ferry, you stroked the ball very well today. You stopped listening to the coach, huh?
Stop listening to the coach. My shot was feeling good today, and it's nice to have it back. Just we got 2 more games left, I hope, and I'll have them there too.
You said this game belongs to the continuous thinker. You were down by 10. Your team came back with a lot of poise.
Well, I thought we were a little bit tentative to start out the game. We respected Temple maybe a little bit too much. We showed our youth. Then we got our defense moving, and then they only scored 11 points in the last 10 minutes of the first half, and that gave us a lot of confidence going into halftime.
Danny Ferry was just named the most valuable player of this tournament, and here's the reaction of a very poised, composed Mike Krzyzewski when he saw the last dunk by Strickland.
I'm watching it pretty close there.
You're watching it
I thought
close.
he's going to rim it.
Right now, let's go back to New York. Here's Jim Nance.
Oh, he might have could have dunked that day.
All right, so Mike Krzyzewski jumping and running his way now to Kansas City and to the Final Four for the second time. And Duke went to the Final Four in '86 out of the Meadowlands.
Looking like a true survivor, feeling like a little kid. And I'm still standing after all this time, picking up the pieces of my life without you on my mind. I'm still standing. I'm still standing. I'm still standing.
Alabama, there are 2 teams still standing in the Southeast region as we welcome you to the Jefferson Civic Center for the Southeast Regional Final between the Villanova Wildcats and the top seed Oklahoma Sooners. Here's how it's gone in the Southeast Regional, and the winner today will move on to the Final Four next week in Kansas City. Coming in, and here's the pressure. 7-4, Villanova leading. Seeger on West. He's all over Doug West.
This Oklahoma team can do this for 40 minutes, 50 minutes. It doesn't matter how long it takes. They'll be relentless.
Ricky Grace picks up the foul, and that is the first Oklahoma foul.
Now, the thing to watch was that frustration or what there on Oklahoma's hair, because they're not used to this type of tempo, especially in the first 3 games in this tournament.
Rodney Taylor double team will come momentarily. Villanova's not going to be safe even when they're handling the ball around midcourt because Oklahoma can double easily out there.
They can double, and when you have a player like Blaylock, who's one of the finest defensive guards in the country, he can create turnovers.
5-second violation against Villanova, so there's a turnover. Rolly Massimino, we play hard and we'll have fun. That's the only thing he promised in this game. I wonder if he's having fun now.
Not right now. He's a little upset with the official. He thought that was a quick count on the 5-second call.
Sooners are only 1 for 5 from the field. And now Grant hits the second basket. King and Grant have all 6 of the Sooners' points. They trail by 1. And Tom Bryce, they didn't get it in time. And it's still away. Out of bounds. Villanova's ball. Billy Tubbs, of course, his first entry into the Final Four.
You think he's excited about this? You know, he said yesterday that the one thing they did with this ball club is they made a commitment to come out and play the defense that he wanted them to play.
Muller has his shot blocked by Mike Bell. You know, the Oklahoma players were saying if you went against some of the guys we have to go against in practice, you'd understand how good we are because they could play and start on many teams in the country, and I don't doubt that.
Well, Grace said that they usually beat us, as a matter of fact, when we scrimmage at practice.
21 seconds remaining. Wiley. Oklahoma wins going away, but it was a lot closer than the final score will indicate.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that they were down 7 at halftime, 38-31.
And then 8 points early in the second half. Last year, the Sooners lost, or check that, 3 years ago, beaten by Memphis State in overtime in the Midwest Regional Finals. Knocked out by Iowa last year, and as Billy Tubbs said, we're just a rebound or a tip-in away from getting to the regional finals last season.
Billy Tubbs is so excited over on the sideline. He has not been able to stand still, sit down. He's just pacing back up and down the sidelines.
Wiley, 76-59. Wiley, 78-59. So Oklahoma got 78 points. Final shot. That does it. Oklahoma wins the Southeast Regional. And they did it with defense. Outscoring Villanova 47-21 in the second half. The winning coach, Billy Tubbs and Monty Johnson of the Big 8. 78-59. You're doing fine, Oklahoma. They are, and they're on their way to Kansas City. Jim Nance will come around after we break for these messages from New York City. Congratulations.
No one was thinking about us. So we were kind of put back by the fact that no one paid any attention to us. I mean, it kind of stirred us up a little bit. We just didn't think we could possibly lose. It wasn't overwhelming to us at all. We just had an absolute confidence in Pete Newell and his strategy and our ability to execute it.
And a tournament memory from 1959. You know, before we leave you on this Sunday, we thought you might like to see what happens to some stately trees before they go, shall we say, by the boards. A side trip on the road to the Final Four is Dollar Bay, Michigan. In the Upper Peninsula is the heart of the state's maple country and Horner flooring. In about 2 weeks' time, raw lumber undergoes a transformation from this to this. A completely portable basketball floor that is first totally assembled and labeled and then stacked and crated for shipping. So the floor you see here is the one upon which Kansas and Kansas State will decide their fate in just a few moments at the Silver Dome. And speaking of that game, as we see now the floor live at the Silver Dome, and we saw it in the process of being built, let's talk about that game, James. How do you see it? Danny Manning for the Jayhawks had the big game against Vanderbilt. How has he done against Kansas State this year?
It's the fourth time they will be meeting this year. Danny has not had great games against Kansas State, and I think that the Kansas supporting cast is going to have to step up to the task with good outside shooting in order to take some of the burden off of Danny Manning.
All right, it'll be the 214th time Kansas and Kansas State have met, this time with a road to Kansas City on the line. We'll join Vern and Tommy after this message and a word from your local station.
From the Silverdome in Pontiac, Michigan, welcome everybody to the Midwest Regional Final featuring the Jayhawks of Kansas against the Wildcats of Kansas State. Kansas, seeded number 6, ousted Xavier and Murray State in Lincoln, Nebraska, then got by Vanderbilt here on Friday night to advance to the final round. And the K-State Wildcats defeated LaSalle and DePaul down in South Bend, Indiana. Then a big upset over top-seeded Purdue, 73-70, here on Friday night. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Vern Lundquist, and welcome. We promised not to stretch the metaphor too far, but the yellow brick road has taken that to try and pick up a couple of early fouls again. What a difference in Friday night's first games here in Pontiac. Kansas jumped out to a 17-4 lead in its win over Vanderbilt. Meanwhile, K-State fell behind 10-zip to Purdue. And they were down at the half by 9, still came back to win. Manning shot no good.
And he had to take the shot quickly right off the catch.
Scott for 2. Boy, that's a rarity. It's a two-pointer.
When he gets the ball at the letters, it's 2 points. You have to be sitting right a one-arm distance away from him to give him any trouble. Look at Richmond just back down inside there. And look at him put the body on Manning to keep him off the offensive board.
Well, Scooter Berry has given Kansas something that Jeff Geldner did not to open the game. He's 2 for 2. Geldner was 0 for 2.
Well, he's given him an awareness that that shot is there, and he's got enough confidence to take it.
Richmond rejected.
A man-to-man Venus flytrap defense in action. They filtered him to the shot blocker, Danny Manning.
8-6 Kansas, 14:35 to go first half.
Number 32, you'll want to watch him today. He is satin smooth. His name is Sean Elliott, and Billy Packer takes a look at the Arizona Star.
Tucson, Arizona. It was here in this middle-class neighborhood just 10 minutes from the University of Arizona campus, that Sean Elliott grew up and first became acquainted with the great game of basketball. At nearby Choya High School, Elliott staged a record-setting performance in his senior year, averaging 33 points and 14 rebounds per game, leading the Chargers to a 24-3 record.
You know, Coach came in and he was preaching all this. People were saying nonsense. You know, he came out and said, you know, we're going to be a contender, and some people were buying it, and I bought it too, and I just thought to myself, why go, you know, 1,000, 2,000 miles away to get something that's right here in your backyard?
He attended Lute Olson's camp, and he said, Mom, I want to play for him. If he recruits me, I'm going to stay here. And then he decided that if he would just get a letter from Maryland, or if he would just get one from North Carolina, and then by the time he got those letters, he'd already made up his mind that he was going to stay here.
He's such a role model within the city of Tucson. I mean, every kid now that picks up a basketball sees himself as, maybe I can be another Sean Elliott at the University of Arizona.
For his part, All-American Sean Elliott patterned himself after the two NBA superstars he admired most during his youth, Dr. J and George Gervin. Just last summer, Sean had another opportunity of playing with a modern master of the moves, Michael Jordan. And Air Jordan himself was extremely impressed by the maturity and skills of his young, gifted student.
I see him in the top 3 picks if he decided to go. I mean, he was my player of the year. I thought he was player of the year. I think with the team that he had and what he had to contribute in his all-around talents, he was somewhat overlooked out there in the West.
There are guys that I think can go a year early. I'm not sure if I'm in that class. That's the Akeems, that's the James Worthy, that's the Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson guys that are just absolute superstars.
There's no one that I have seen that can stop Sean one-on-one. And he finds open people really well. I think he has the same advantage with that, though, that, say, a Magic Johnson does. You're at 6'8", 6'8.5", and all of a sudden the whole court is visible to you because of your size.
Now he's one game away from the Final Four, and if indeed he's going to Kansas City, he won't be going there alone.
I promised him at the beginning of the year that if they made the Final Four, I would be there. I really can't travel with the team. That's just a little more than I can handle. But I've been planning for that, and I plan to be there.
Well, Sean told us on Friday that because of his mother's influence, he definitely wants to return to Arizona next year and get that college degree. And Mother says college degree won't hurt anybody. Now, Billy, what is one of the favorite plays we can look for to get Elliott free here?
Well, the first thing, just give him the ball, Brent. But if they don't, they have a nice set right here. Kerr gets the ball over to Elliott on the side and then breaks behind for the handoff. You see Tolbert coming up to set a screen and to clear out to the opposite side. Then Elliott will break all the way looking for the lob pass, which he can handle so well. If it's not available, he steps out. They reverse the ball back over to him, and as you can see, I've got a clear out on the side. And as his coach, Lute Olson, says, nobody stops him one-on-one.
Well, the Tar Heels are aching just a bit. Let me run down the injuries. Their point guard, Jeff Lebo, is out with a stress fracture. He did not practice yesterday on the left ankle, but he is expected to go today. Scott Williams has an injured right shoulder. He sat out a few minutes in the Tar Heels' victory over Michigan. He's expected to play. The most serious injury turns out to be Steve Bucknell's turf toe, left foot. He didn't practice yesterday. He will try it, but the Tar Heels are a little concerned about him right now. Let's send you back to New York, and here's Jim Nance.
All right, Brent, so North Carolina a little bit banged up, but Dean Smith will be going for his 8th trip to the Final Four. Last time he visited the Final Four, 1982, when the Tar Heels won the national championship. And we'll continue on the road to Kansas City here on CBS in just a moment.
It was a team. It was a real team, and that's the thing that means the most to me. We were a group of people that blended themselves together perfectly, and we knew what we wanted to accomplish, and we were able to do it. And as I look back on it today, it's very, very meaningful. It's been a long time since there was that kind of success in basketball at Ohio State, and so it holds a very, very special place in my heart.
Another tournament memory, and this the 50th year of the Final Four. Well, all right, at halftime, it's Kansas State over Kansas, 29-27. James, let's look at a couple of plays here from the first half, and you'll see William Scott has really been burning the nets from the outside, James.
13 points in the first half, taking a tremendous amount of pressure off of Mitch Richmond. And I tell you, 13 points is a big, big plus for them.
What about Danny Manning? He seemed to warm up there in the late going.
10 points in the first half, not a bad job, but the key for him will be to get that ball down the low post, kick it out quickly when he's got 2 and 3 men on him. His teammates have got to convert from the outside.
Right. Will Scott now 21 for 29 at 3-point shots in the tournament. We'll send you back to the Silverdome. Third spot in the Final Four on the line. After this message and a word from your local station.
Extending the man-to-man, little pick and a curl off it. A layup, beautiful read.
Richmond, 3 points. Scooter Berry rebound. Foul, McCoy. Berry will shoot. Larry Brown off the bench.
Kansas State foul number 44, McCoy, his second.
Larry Brown said he wanted Danny Manning's senior year to be something special. It has been.
Berry will shoot for
Danny Manning, who originally I think was slotted to be a forward on this ball club, was forced to play center when all their big people got hurt or were suspended for academics, what have you. And I think he's profited from this season immeasurably because he's become, in addition to a finesse player, he's learned how to play the power game. And that really makes him devastating.
Don't give up, baby.
2 for Berry. And a double-digit lead for the first time in the game. We've got less than 2 minutes to play. Henson, no. Berry, another rebound. 2-on-1. Pritchard. Bledsoe follows. Foul call.
Timeout, Kansas State.
94 seconds away. Will it be Kansas State or Kansas?
A tough thing to overcome.
That's coming up next. North Carolina against Arizona. Ron Meyer, 4-year player at Kansas State. He and Mark Dobbins. K-State came in favored. This, as we said, is the 4th time these two teams have met this year. Kansas won at K-State. K-State won at Kansas, and then K-State won in the Big 8 semis.
What Kansas did today to Kansas State's defense, after having seen it so many times, was know where the shots were going to be, and the players had a willingness to take those shots, and they were outside shots from the foul line in, mostly in the corners. Pritchard did it. Scooter Barry did it. All of them that were in that position, Newton did it. So they had several guys that were testing the interior defense of Kansas State all day long, and I think Kansas played that defense like an accordion, inside, outside.
One minute to go. Foul on Steve Henson.
Kansas State foul number 12, Henson, his fourth.
Archie Marshall, who was a starter the last time Kansas played Duke. That was in the semifinals of the Final Four in Dallas. He went out with a knee injury that cost him last year. Then he came back after all the rehabilitation, started this season, went out with the injury to St. John's, and in his honor, Danny Manning has worn the wristband with number 23 all year long. They also lost Marvin Branch to academics. There's Ed Manning, Danny's father and assistant to Larry Brown. They've had various other discipline and academic problems, and who would have believed that the Kansas Jayhawks are going to make it back to the Final Four. They have a 14-point lead in less than a minute to go.
It takes a special breed to overcome the things that Kansas overcame this year. And Kansas State, too, they changed their style of play. But there's a tenaciousness, I believe, in Danny Manning that carried through the rest of his teammates. And also, guys like Piper. You don't see guys like Piper every day on a basketball court playing with the injuries that he had.
Larry Brown's going to make some substitutions now. Lon Kruger looks on. Mike Maddox, a freshman from Oklahoma City, coming in. Danny Manning going out.
14, Pritchard shooting for Kansas, 1-1.
At the line, Kevin Pritchard.
Number 45, Meyer in for Kansas
Ron
State.
Meyer coming in for Mark Dobbins. 20 points, 6 rebounds. Below his average again, but I don't think he minds. And the senior, Mitch Richmond, 11 points. That equals his lowest point total of the year.
And his name, Mitch Richmond, you're going to hear about for a lot of years to come.
Two years ago, offensive foul. Larry Brown up. 2 years ago, Kansas won the regional in Kansas City to go to Dallas. They were heavily favored that year. But the longest of shots this year, finishing third in the Big Eight, and they're going to the Final Four again. They had a young man named Ryan Gray that the team adopted 2 years ago, a young man with an inoperable brain tumor. Ryan Gray is still here. And Kevin Pritchard celebrates on the sideline.
Number 54, Maddox in for Kansas. Number 11, Glover in for Kansas State.
That young man is tough.
And what a game for Scooter Berry.
Kind of, you can hear him say, is, yeah, he's a nice basketball player, but boy, did he respond to the challenge. Really emotionally, a big, big game to step up and then have the willingness to fail. That's a big, big factor that coaches look for in young players, and Scooter Berry did it.
The man who was fouled is Marvin Maddox. He's a senior from Pomona, California. He's going to go to the free throw line.
Number 21, Stanfield.
And among the many fascinating stories for this Kansas team, here's Mike Maddox coming in. Marvin Maddox, number 54, is a senior. And in the win over Vanderbilt on Friday night, he scored the first 2 points of his career. And here is Marvin Maddox, the man about whom we're speaking, at the free throw line right now. That's Maddox. Misses.
Oh, could have had 3 points.
Henson gets a three-pointer. Jayhawks have done it. They're going to Kansas City. City, his senior year has indeed been something special. The Jayhawks beat the Wildcats. Manning has 20 points and 6 rebounds. Now let's go back to our studios. Jim Nance and James Brown.
For Kansas State.
All right, thank you very much, Vern. And again, a remarkable story for Danny Manning and Larry Brown. Going back to the Final Four, they were there in 1986. That year, they lost in the semifinals to Duke, and those two teams will have a rematch next Saturday, Kemper Arena in Kansas City. The Chevy MVPs from this game for Kansas, Scooter Berry with 15 points, and William Scott of Kansas State, the Chevy MVP for the Wildcats. Coming up next, Arizona against North Carolina, as the final piece to the puzzle will be solved the final of the West Regional between North Carolina and the top seed out there, Arizona. James, about 15 minutes to go in this ball game. Larry Brown just turned it around with the tempo.
Defense created a tempo for Kansas in the second half. Those couple of steals by his players, nice job. And again, the supporting cast that I talk so much about for Kansas. Scooter Berry, and an excellent job by Milt Newton. Great job defensively holding Mitch Richmond to only 11 points, equaling his season low.
You know, the public often hears the press talk about and sing the praises of Larry Brown as being a great coach, but he's proven it once again. You think back to 1980 when he took UCLA within 5 minutes of the championship. That year, the Bruins were really the last team to get into the tournament. He took them all the way to the finals. And again, a 6th seed here. He's got his team going to Kansas City. And the Final Four, Danny Manning, the College Player of the Year, going back to the Final Four for the second time in his illustrious career. We'll continue here on CBS in just a moment.
Kansas City, here I come. Kansas City, here I come.
Larry Brown, Archie Marshall, Scooter Berry in the background. They're playing Kansas City, Here I Come. Larry, this is not only extraordinary, it's a very emotional moment for you, I think.
It's the most wonderful thing to think we're going there, and I got Archie next to me. I think the team just, you know, gutted it out, and everybody did the best they could because we knew we lost some great players, and I think they did it for the seniors, to be honest.
Well, there was a wonderful scene of Archie Marshall, the injured senior, tearing down the net, cutting down the net after you won the right to the Final Four. Archie, this has been a very difficult season for you, and how ironic that the team is going back to play Duke, the team against whom you originally got hurt.
I tell you, no matter how difficult it's been for me, we're here and we're going farther, and that's all that counts. And I'm just glad to be here. I'm glad to be here, and we worked hard for it all year. And the next step is the national championship, and I can't wait.
Well, standing next to Tommy Heinsohn, I don't know. Scooter Berry, if you want to pick a day to have a great day, this is a pretty good one. Tommy?
Well, Larry Brown, your coach, kept saying, Scooter, that we have to have somebody additionally to Danny Manning step up to the challenge. How did you step up to it?
Well, I just looked to take the open shot. You know, Coach has been saying to step in and take the shot because they've been sagging back on Danny all year. So I finally took the open shot, and I made it, and couldn't have picked a better day, like you said, to make him today.
But you had a tremendous amount of poise in doing it in a pressure-packed game.
Thank you. I think it's just been, you know, the team's been so great all year long, and our players have finally come together and gelled as a team, and it made it easy for me to play good, and I'm glad I had a good one.
Well, you did a great job. All right, Larry Brown, Scooter Berry, Archie Marshall, congratulations. Have fun at home. Thanks a lot. All right, Larry. All right, Scooter. They want Duke. They got them. It's Kansas against Duke. Part of the puzzle's been fit. Let's go back to Jim Nance in New York.
All right, you know, Rick Barry won the NBA championship for the Golden State Warriors back in 1975, but I'll be willing to bet that he's never been more proud in his life than he is today with that performance by his son, Scooter.
Has to make him feel good, and Scooter Berry really did a nice job, shook off all the nerves and came out there and came through when the team needed it.
All right, we talked about the fact that Duke and Kansas met in '86 in the semifinals. They also met this season. The game went into overtime, and Duke won that contest 74-70. So the last two games have gone to Duke, and they've been 4-point wins. What about the one coming up next week?
Although I'm chiseling my thoughts on what tactically will be done in that game there between Duke and Kansas, what immediately comes to mind is that two of the best multi-talented big men, and Danny Ferry and Danny Manning going at it, definitely is going to be impressive.
All right, of course, we still wait one more team's arrival to Kansas City. That will be decided in the West between North Carolina and Arizona. The game coming up from Seattle. Let's go out there live right now, and Brent Musburger. Brent?
All right, Jim, thank you very much. The Kingdome here in Seattle starting to fill up now for this West Regional Final. The North Carolina band at one end, and their cheerleaders have been getting ready. And, of course, at the other end, the top gun of the West, that would be Arizona. They come in to this regional final having lost only twice. Steve Kerr and his teammates were beaten by New Mexico in the pit. Then they were upset by Stanford. Other than that, they have been perfect. And they are favored by 6 points now to conquer Big J.R. Reed and the Tar Heels of North Carolina. It is an injured Tar Heel team, but one body is healthy, and you're looking at it. Number 34, their main man, J.R. Reed. So Billy Packer, Can you ever remember North Carolina being a 6-point underdog in a regional final?
Brent, I don't think they've ever been the underdog in a regional final, and in my memory, I've got to go back to 1968, which was the national championship final against the great UCLA club, to ever remember them being underdog in a game of this significance.
And Dean Smith is loving it. Yesterday at the news conference, he said, oh my, I just hope we can stay within 20 points of these fellows. Their assistant coaches, their players are all saying the same thing. We don't know if we can play with Arizona. This is a monster team. Meanwhile, Arizona at the other end, they've been calm, cool, and collected. You're going to be looking at a terrific team here this afternoon. Let's send you back to New York now at Jim Nance. Jim?
All right, Brent, so tip-off about 15 minutes away in Seattle. We know this much. 2 Big 8 teams are going to Kansas City, America's heartland. We've got a team from the ACC, Duke there already. Should North Carolina win today, that would mean 2 Big 8s, 2 ACCs, of course, Arizona out of the Pac-10. How do you see this game coming up next?
Carolina's got his task cut out for it, no doubt about it. Injuries, as Brent mentioned, is really going to play a big part in that. But I look for Arizona to kind of pack it in defensive-wise to try to stop the inside game and force Carolina to beat them from the outside. Also look for somebody on Carolina's bench to really step up to the forefront, perhaps Scott Williams, irrespective of the fact of his injured shoulder.
All right, James, let's set the lineup for next Saturday here on CBS. 1 o'clock Eastern time. We'll have the Buick WCT Finals featuring Pat Cash. Ed Berg will be there, as well as Tim Mayotte. That'll be followed by a World Figure Skating Exhibition. That's from Budapest, and that's next Saturday again. That'll be followed at 5 o'clock Eastern time by a CBS Sports Special. 50 years at the Final Four. We'll have a half-hour special on that major momentous event there coming up in Kansas City. Then at 5:30 Eastern time, we'll have the national semifinals there at the Final Four. We know it'll be Duke against Kansas in one game, and it'll be Oklahoma against the winner of that North Carolina-Arizona contest that's coming up. That's next week, April the 2nd, right here on CBS. So stay with us. We have more action coming your way as we continue on the road to the Final Four.
Congratulations to Duke, Oklahoma, and Kansas. And now the final part of the puzzle from the Kingdome in Seattle. It'll be North Carolina against Arizona. And next Saturday in Kansas City, it will be Kansas going against Duke. And Oklahoma will draw the winner of this game, the Tar Heels and the Wildcats. The winner is going to Kansas City. Start young as basketball fans down in the Carolinas. You're so familiar with that program, the General Motors, if you will, of college basketball. Arizona, the upstarts. One thing to watch, there will be emotion on both these benches. I'm not sure that I've seen a Carolina team show this much emotion under Dean Smith. On the other side, take a look at the Gumbies. Folks, I think the game was about 5 minutes old when they gave us this demonstration. Billy Packer, they sent over to Gumby for you today. What about these two fine schools?
Well, it's amazing, Brent. When you look over the Dean Smith program, and before that, Frank McGuire, the Carolina tradition goes on and on. 14 straight years in the NCAA Tournament, 8 Sweet 16 situations. In Arizona, a team that has never been to the Final Four. This is as far as they've ever gone. But under Lute Olson, you expect that program to have many more years of success.
Well, we got 2 fabulous All-Americans in the game. One from each of the teams, J.R. Reed of North Carolina and Satin Smooth Sean Elliott of Arizona.
2 great ball players. J.R. utilizes space better than any big man I've seen in college basketball. He's has awesome strength, great quickness, tough to control inside. And Sean Elliott, as a one-on-one player, is really tough to handle. When everything breaks down for Arizona, which is not often, he can take it on his own.
Billy, what are some of the things we should look for, expect here today?
Well, everybody talks about rebounding, but I think the possession of the ball is so important. North Carolina this year has turned over the ball quite a bit, as you can see right there. Arizona, they utilize the ball so well, very seldom turning over. That could be important today. And the other thing that's got to give, Brent, this is unbelievable. Look at their shooting percentages and what they do to their opponents. They're great offensively and great defensively, so something has got to go.
All right, so coming up now, it's the West Regional Final. The Tar Heels of North Carolina and the Wildcats of Arizona.
CBS Sports coverage of today's NCAA Basketball Championship Regional Final game from Seattle is sponsored by Michelob. So exceptionally smooth, the night belongs to Michelob. The heartbeat of America, today's Chevrolet. And by Pizza Hut, home of America's favorite pan pizza, Pizza Hut, making it.
That should be an intentional foul.
Bench signaling that.
Brent, I don't not.
There's the call.
Should be, certainly. And I have wondered why. When we saw yesterday, there should have been one also. When you grab a man from behind, there shouldn't be any question. Now, this is a big call here because he's got 2 shots. Carolina will have the ball out of bounds and be able to hold for the last shot and a half.
Big Fox on the line. It was an intentional foul. 2 shots.
Surprising mental breakdown by Steve Kerr.
Number 42, Scott Williams, down the lineup for North Carolina.
Scott Williams returns for the final 33 seconds.
I expect Dean Smith to be putting King Rice back in, maybe to give him 3 guards to run his little 4 corners.
That's exactly what he's going to do, Billy. Just as you were saying that, he turned and yelled for Rice. Fox has scored 5, even though he missed that one.
Yeah, he's going to go with 3 guards, take Fox out of there, set up the 4 corners, which King Rice, Smith, and Lebo do fairly well.
Arizona has lived at the free throw line here in the first half. 10 of their points have come at the line to only 2 for Carolina. Carolina has shot but 3 free throws, and Arizona has taken 12 at that charity stripe. So they bring it down now to the last shot time with Lebo, Rice, and Ranzino, along with Williams and Chilcutt.
Just going to sit on this, and it's a good strategy because even if you don't score, you go in with a lead at halftime. And Dean Smith can go ahead and really make those wings have a problem. He wants Lebo to have his hands on the ball because you've got shooters out there.
Ranzino wants Lebo, taps to Rice, and Kerr was right there, and Rice with that quick move missed, and Ranzino Smith fires it up at the buzzer in the first half. The number 2 seed, North Carolina, leading the number 1 seed, Arizona, 28-26. Sean Elliott scores 10 for the Wildcats. CBS Sports coverage of the NCAA Basketball Championship continues after this message and a word from your local station.
CBS Sports coverage of the NCAA Basketball Championship is sponsored by Reebok Basketball Shoes. Reebok, because life is not a spectator sport. Pontiac Grand Am, a true driver's coupe, built with a feel for the road. And by UPS for overnight delivery from coast to coast. UPS runs the tightest ship in the shipping business.
Chip Nance and James Brown back here in New York. Low-scoring first half as the Tar Heels really dictating the tempo here in the first half. The 26 points by Arizona, the lowest first half output this year by Arizona in a ball game. Now, earlier today, it was Kansas and Kansas State for the Midwest Final. Really the tempo in the second half taken over there by Larry Brown's team.
And that helped Kansas to become the 3rd team making it into the Final Four this year. Good scoring and effort by Danny Manning, 20 points, as Kansas knocked off Kansas State 71-58. Kansas State owned the first half thanks to 13 points on the hot hand of Will Scott, who was a terror from three-point land. Now, Danny Manning didn't get many shots in the first half, but made the most of what he got. He kept the squad within 2 at the half. Larry Brown, good adjustments during the second half, substituting quickness on defense. And it paid dividends as the Jayhawks took the lead in the second half. Now, reserve Scooter Barry provided scoring help with a career-high 15 points as Kansas State pulls away at that point. Not much Lon Kruger could do from there as the Jayhawks earned the right to return home. Vern Lundquist talked with Coach Brown afterwards.
Larry, this is not only extraordinary, it's a very emotional moment for you, I think.
It's the most wonderful thing to think we're going there, and I got Archie next to me. I think the team just, gutted it out, and everybody did the best they could because we knew we lost some great players, and I think they did it for the seniors, to be honest.
I don't know. Scooter Barry, if you want to pick a day to have a great day, this is a pretty good one. Tommy?
Well, Larry Brown, your coach, kept saying, Scooter, that we have to have somebody additionally to Danny Manning step up to the challenge. How did you step up to it?
Well, I just looked to take the open shot. You know, Coach has been saying to step in and take the shot because they've been sagging back on Danny all year. So I finally took the open shot, and I made it, and couldn't have picked a better day, like you said, to make them today.
So the picture is just about complete for the Final Four. Duke and Kansas will meet for the second time this year, this time in the national semifinals. Oklahoma awaits the winner of Arizona and North Carolina.
Larry Brown is amazing. He's been a college coach 7 seasons, 2 years at UCLA, now 5 seasons at Kansas, and this will be his 3rd trip to the Final Four. Kansas, by the way, 14-3 in its last 17 games at Kemper Arena, the site of this year's Final Four. Now, next Saturday at 5 o'clock, we'll have a CBS Sports special, 50 years at the Final Four. That'll be followed by the national semifinals. We can now tell you the first game will be Kansas against Duke, and in the second game, it'll be Oklahoma against the winner of the North Carolina-Arizona contest. And we'll come back and have our ode to the road to the Final Four as we continue on CBS in just a moment.
Left to play. Goes back to Michael Jordan. Jumper from out on the left. Good!
You know, that shot was something that I dreamed about and finally got the chance to do that. And just going through the NCAA championship, it was a big event for me. I didn't know how big it was until years afterwards.
How about them Heels? They are the national champions!
Back here on the road to the Final Four, we're already set with 3/4 of this year's Final Four. And from our vantage point here in Studio 45, Jim and I have followed all the stories and trends that have emerged as this 50th tournament unfolded before us.
Well, James, now after 59.5 games of college basketball, here's our list of what's hot and what's not. Kings were hot. Stacy, Rex, and Rice. Teams from Queens were not, and Louis paid the price. It was the year of the Wildcats, though some got skinned. The running game ran wild. Fast breaks were gone with the wind. It was thumbs up this tourney for towels. You could wave them, eat them, or wear them as cowls.
Maryland waded in. Georgetown came out thin. Pep bands created quite a den. The Garricks provided our favorite kin. John Chaney went into a hypnotic trance. Everyone learned by the seat of his pants. The Pirates bowed out quickly. Pittsburgh knew the score. There was little blood, but plenty of gore.
People fit as a ride.
I think Pitt's video was great.
Downright disgusting.
Makeup was hot. The wilder, the better. Some women even wore the scarlet letter. Thinking was in. Make the dean's list. Just read your part. Night games were out, and everyone tried to get smart.
A pair of Purdues paid their dues. Kansas fans got to choose. Michigan continued to lose, and Frieder blew his fuse. Rowley was on a roll, a one-man show. Hotter than hot, like someone you know.
Orangemen were out, the same with the Redmen and Yellow Jackets. Blue Devils were cool, and Brown crept up the brackets. Smiths were in, all 17, from LeBradford to Ranzino. We could split up the squad, give half to Sonny and the others to Dino. The Joneses couldn't keep up. There were only 15. One name always spells trouble. You see what we mean. The heartbeat of America paced our referees. Speak up now or forever hold your peace. Temple had the making of a champion and a rebel with a cause. The Owls were hooting, but Duke will visit the land of Oz.
Richmonds were in, but Texans took a mighty fall. March Madness is peaking, we're all having a ball. It's a riddle wrapped in a mystery, inside an enigma. Some made history, others lost their stigma. By day's end, 4 teams will answer a call only destiny brings. The road to the Final Four doesn't end until the fans sing.
All right, this tournament's been fun. It's been real and a whole lot more, but we're not going to be happy till we get to the Final Four. And we're about a half away from getting there, James.
Well, keep this in mind. J.R. Reed only has 2, but Coach Dean Smith shouldn't boo-hoo. As a matter of fact, there's still another half to go, and right now Carolina is controlling the tempo.
Boo. All right, this can't rhyme, but what about the second half coming up here?
I think it's going to be a good second half. Again, Arizona's going to have to pick the tempo up right now. Carolina is controlling that. And J.R. Reed, only 2 points, but another half to go.
All right. The Final Four will be set after one more half. We'll send you back to Seattle. Brent and Billy, after this message and a word from your local station.
There's Sean Elliott showing a little of his competitors. You know what impressed me, Brent, was on Thursday when Lute Olson divided up his squad. And I mentioned this the other day. Divided up his squad to have a little inter-squad scrimmage and said, okay, we'll play to 14 points. And they really went after each other. I mean, it wasn't a matter of first team against second. Those guys wanted to win. They have a feel kind of like the wooden UCLA years where it was confidence and relaxed.
You said that to me almost right away. You walked in the building, watched them, and you came over and said, Brent, this is like a wooden team.
Yeah, they just are so relaxed, and yet when it comes time to be competitive, it's there, too. It's not a phony.
Inside of 2 minutes now, Tucson.
Good defense.
Fox.
Oh, no.
JR wanted a timeout.
And Lebo, you know, give him a lot of credit, too, for playing on that one leg. He's out there chasing, but he doesn't have a lot of quickness.
Reed's 4th personal out on Tolbert. You know, John Thompson, the Olympic coach, is here. I was just thinking, he was watching Gary Grant of Michigan. He had his problems the other night. I was watching J.R. Reed here. He's had some difficulty. I dare say it'll be an interesting selection process for Coach Thompson and his assistants to see what kind of a lineup they come up with.
Brett, this club by themselves beat the Soviet Union. I'm going to make a crazy statement. I think you can give Lute Olson or John Thompson, either one or a number of other coaches, the Arizona team, let them select a couple of guys outside of that, similar to what Dean Smith did in '76, and they'll win the Olympics. Believe me.
Yeah, Danny Manning.
Put Manning on there, Hersey Hawkins, and maybe a power rebounder, and let this club grow. This club really understands how to play team basketball. I'm not making them national champions yet, but I'm saying that they can win the Olympics, believe me.
Yeah, you're giving Billy Tubbs some material.
He doesn't need any. He was so humble yesterday, I couldn't believe it. He'll be a riot in Kansas. And this mature Arizona club is frustrating the young Tar Heels, who are sure to be back in the race next year with only one senior on their entire club.
Splendid second half performance by the Wildcats of Arizona. North Carolina has missed its last 10 field goal attempts against Lute Olson's defense.
Pushed by Lebo. Now, Dean Smith doesn't want to see his team foul that much the rest of the way here. You go for the steal, but you don't want to just keep adding up points.
14, Jeff Lebo.
Dean Smith had something the other day, Brent, that taught me a heck of a lesson in basketball. I always say, take what the defense gives you. And he said the other day, no, we don't take what the defense gives us. We keep working until we get what we want, which is quite a philosophy.
That's Jeff Lebo's 3rd personal foul. Sean Elliott at the line, 1-1. Number 33, Geno Smith now in the lineup for North Carolina.
to Kansas City. We've got an intentional foul, Billy.
Yeah, that's an intentional on Madden. I didn't see it because I was watching Lebo off the screen.
Some of the Gumbies may close this one out. It was interesting on that trip, Billy, how Carolina aggressively still going for the ball and Arizona still attempting to hit the open man.
Well, these ball teams are both so well schooled, and that's not just for the starting players.
Celebration time in Tucson, Arizona, folks. Kansas City. Arizona goes to Kansas City. We'll hear from the heroes, and we'll be going to Jim Nance in just a moment.
And James Brown back in New York. North Carolina loses in a regional final for the third time in the last 4 years. Pac-10 going to the Final Four for the first time since 1980 when Larry Brown took UCLA. The Chevy MVP, Scott Williams for North Carolina, and Tom Tolbert with 18 second-half points takes it for Arizona. Next Saturday, 5 o'clock Eastern Time, 50 years at the Final Four. That'll be followed by the national semifinals. Duke against Kansas in the first game. That'll be followed by Oklahoma against Arizona. And right now, let's take it back out to Seattle, and here's Brent Musburger.
Lute Olson, you've got the lipstick off. You're feeling now about going to the Final Four with this Arizona team.
Well, it's a great thrill, Brent. It's a group of kids who started October 15th with nothing else in their mind other than going to Kansas City and they put up what they said they were going to do.
You've proved a lot for the program in the Pac-10. We'll see you in Kansas City. Congratulations.
Thanks a lot, bro.
Let's go back now to Jim Nance. Jimmy.
All right, so amazingly, all 4 teams going to the Final Four trailed at halftime this weekend, came back and outscored their opponents in the second half to advance. We'll be right back. Arizona is on its way to Kansas City, and so are we. For James Brown, Brent, Billy, and all of us at CBS Sports, Jim Nance saying so long for now. We'll see you Saturday at the Final Four.